We're recording.
Meeting, please come to order. Susie, please call the roll.
Commissioners Levine, McLean Hill, Barad, and Reyes present.
This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. The first item on the agenda is my opening remarks, and my opening remarks will be completely dedicated to discussing Christina Noonan. And they will also subsume taking item 31 out of order for a presentation and a vote. We're taking time today to honor a very dear friend and fabulous colleague of ours, Christina Noonan, who left the board several weeks ago, and to recognize her for her dedication and her commitment to the role that she has had as a commissioner, which impacts the lives of every resident in Los Angeles. She served on the board of Water and Power Commissioners for more than 9 years, which is an unprecedented accomplishment. I have some other personal remarks which I'm going to save for later. And we also have a resolution for Commissioner Noonan. But before we move to the discussion prior to the resolution and the reading of the resolution, I want to take a minute to recognize the presence of those very dear to Commissioner Noonan who are here today. Her children, Alexis and Eric, are sitting next to her, and her sister, Nevi, who is sitting next to Alexis. Welcome. Also here in spirit are her husband, Tim, and her mother, Elizabeth Renate Bellinghausen, who have been her biggest supporters and biggest fans, but who couldn't be here today. Before reading the resolution and making my own remarks, let me ask my fellow commissioners if they would like to make any comments with regard to Commissioner Noonan.
I recognize that there will be additional opportunity, and I am not certain that I will be in a position to speak as this goes further. It's with just tremendous sadness that I received the news that Christina was leaving the board. I cannot tell you how incredibly rich the experience of working alongside you has been, and how much both I, the department, and the city appreciates your service. You are an incredibly rare person, kind beyond almost imagination, and yet tough as nails. And having seen both sides of you, we are desperately diminished by your absence. I thank you for your friendship and look forward to spending time with you outside of this room.
Thank you, Christina, for your years of service as a commissioner. I will miss you. And as the longest serving commissioner, I am really in awe of how you think strategically and your ability to probe deeper into LATWP matters, which makes the department more transparent and accountable. So thank you for that. I love you as a genuine person, and we all have benefited from your wit and wisdom. And as you know, service on the board is one of the toughest volunteer roles. And you performed with such dedication and tenacity. You distinguish yourself as a judicious steward of the organization, and you never really flinched in the face of making difficult decisions, and I admire you for that. And on a personal level, like Commissioners Cynthia McLean Hill, I would very much like to get hold of you, keep in touch with you outside of our commission work, because I have very much enjoyed getting to know you, your excellent mind, your fine work ethic, and your integrity will really serve you well throughout your life. And I wish you good luck. And thank you again. So much gratitude here from us on the board.
General Manager?
Okay. I want to offer a few thoughts. We've been together here for a long time, so I've been, I guess, the one up here who's been with you since you began. You know, I think of the things that you brought to the board. I remember the times you really challenged us to make sure that we were thinking things through, that we had good analysis, that we could really defend our position, and you always demanded that we be thorough and we do a top-notch job. And I think that in that way, you helped to raise the bar for what we bring to the board and for how the staff, you know, how seriously it takes its role in providing you good information and what you need to make decisions on. I think particularly issues of plastic pipe. I remember when we started bringing, you know, all the pipeline contracts to you, steel and ductile iron, you said, why we're not looking at other products? And as a result of that, we actually were the sponsors of a study through the Water Research Foundation, and it involved people from all over the country, and actually a couple other countries in the world joined in. And I remember when you were here, we had folks here from Alaska, from New York, from all over the United States, and you came to the meeting. And that effort to actually really research the use of plastic pipe and different products really benefited the water industry as a whole, because it's something that agencies all over utilize now as kind of a guidance document and kind of looking at what the options are and what the appropriate uses are. And that all came about because of your insistence that we really look at what we're doing. But the most important times I remember are trips up north. You know, I don't know, most people here won't realize the amount of hours you spent going to the Owens Valley or to Mono Basin for the standing committee meetings and other meetings. You were on the standing committee for most of your tenure on the board. And you know, we meet quarterly, and it seems like half the time we're supposed to fly and it's too windy or snowy or rainy, and we end up driving at the last minute. I particularly remember our last trip when we left the filter plant fairly early in the morning, and it was, you know, it's 7 hours of driving round trip plus the meeting. So it was quite a long day, but I remember distinctly we were getting kind of quiet in the car on the way up, and so you decided that you'd plug in your iPhone and put on a song selection for us. And on the way back, we heard on a dark desert highway, Hotel California playing, and we're driving back, and you said, why don't I call the guitarist of the Eagles, and we could talk to him on the way. And so you picked up your phone, and you called the guitarist from the Eagles, and we had a nice chat that accompanied us on the way back from the Owens Valley. And we, you know, Anselmo and Rick Cherisic and I thought, well, this is not an everyday occurrence, at least not in our circles.
That was very cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. So we have a lot of memories. And I think, you know, there's not a single trip up north that is not its own kind of adventure, whether it's the helicopter now can't fly because it snowed in the pass going through, you know, down the 14 got closed one time. You know, whether it's, I mean, there's all, every single one was a story. But I will miss those days. I miss all the hours that you put in to be with us. I can tell you that our crews in the Owens Valley, our folks that work up there, have already expressed how much, you know, they miss you, and they'll miss your presence up there because you played a very active role. And the folks that I've talked to from Inyo County and other folks that live up there are, you know, they're sad to see you go. So you made a definite impact. You made the long trips livable and more fun, and I want to thank you so much for all that time, and to say those are memories that'll never go away.
Marty touched upon some of what I wanted to say about you, Christina. There were no assignments that were too time-consuming, too tough, too challenging for you. If a committee needed a member who was prepared to do their homework and devote whatever hours were necessary, you were the first one to volunteer. And we always accepted your volunteering. And we were glad that we did, because the efforts that you put in Owens Valley specifically, but well beyond that as well, were extraordinary. You were and have been someone who has been so dedicated to the city. You always came to these meetings prepared. You always had done your homework. Didn't always please some of the people on the witness stand that you had done your homework as thoroughly as you had, because you, as Cynthia said, could both be very warm and also very tough. And you carved out some areas, or you brought to the table some areas of genuine expertise with regard to insurance, with regard to contracting, with regard to real estate. When any of those issues would arise, we all knew that you were prepared to scrutinize, evaluate, judge what was best for the ratepayers of Los Angeles. And you threw yourself into that work. You did it tirelessly, you did it effectively, you did it continuously. You've been a very good friend, as well as a really dedicated commissioner. When Jill and I joined the board, you were the one remaining holdover from the prior administration. You were the one member who had had experience already as a member of this board. And that experience was very helpful to us in terms of learning how to be a good board member. And that you certainly have been in spades, both a good board member, a real dedicated leader, and a terrific friend. So I join my colleagues in telling you how much we'll miss you and how much we value your friendship, your leadership, your commitment, your dedication, the work you've done for the city. Before reading the resolution, I will open it up to see if there are members of the audience who want to say a few words about Christina, and I see Dr. Wilkinson.
Tony Wilkinson from Panorama City. Although I chair the Neighborhood Council DWP committee, this is really coming from my heart as an individual. Your service and everyone's service on this board is terribly important to me, because I believe strongly in the commission system in the city of Los Angeles, where individuals bring their expertise, but also their sense of fairness and ethics, and take truly responsibility for no pay for running a huge multi-billion-dollar city, and in this case, a multi-billion-dollar business. So you're really kind of part of us owning this department, and I thank you, as I thank all the existing commissioners, for your service.
Thank you, Tony. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, I will now have the pleasure of reading a resolution and asking for a vote on it. I've been given a smaller copy of the resolution because reading the full resolution would be very bulky, but this is what the resolution says. Whereas Ms. Christina E. Noonan was appointed to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners by Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa and was confirmed by the Los Angeles City Council on August 10th, 2010, and was reappointed by Mayor Eric Garcetti and confirmed by the Los Angeles City Council on June 14th, 2016. And whereas before being appointed to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, Ms. Noonan was appointed to the Office of Public Safety Oversight Committee for the City of Los Angeles, was actively engaged in the Mayor's Trade Advisory Council to promote international business in the city, and served on the Los Angeles Convention Center Board and served as president from 2008 through 2010. And whereas Ms. Noonan is a Los Angeles real estate leader, serves as Senior Vice President of Jones Lang LaSalle's Los Angeles office, was featured in Southern California's Most Powerful Real Estate Women, published by Real Estate Southern California, and recognized as one of the most influential women in Los Angeles' commercial real estate arena by Bizno's Power Women. And whereas Ms. Noonan provided leadership for the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power for an unprecedented 9 years, increasing sustainability, equity, resiliency, and value to all customers, along the way becoming the longest-serving member of the board in its over 100-year history. And whereas Ms. Noonan, in her tenure on the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, led LADWP's transition from coal, increased power and water system reliability, reduced LADWP's greenhouse gas emissions by exceeding LADWP's carbon dioxide reduction goals 14 years ahead of California's 2030 mandate, championed water conservation through 2 of California's worst droughts, and supported development of the city's local water supply to reduce reliance on imported water. And whereas during her service, Ms. Noonan served on the board's investment and personnel committees and supported the inclusion of all Angelenos and provided guidance on the Inyo Los Angeles Standing Committee to ensure all stakeholders and the indigenous nations of Greater Owens Valley are actively engaged in the department's decision-making process. And whereas Ms. Noonan prioritized LADWP's emergency mitigation and response efforts by ensuring LADWP has the resources and applies the best practices of other utilities, nations, and leading cities to safeguard the residents of Los Angeles and ensure the safety of its employees, in addition to providing strong leadership on business matters, including risk management, mitigation, and real estate matters. And whereas Ms. Noonan promoted both diversity and sound fiscal management by promoting vendor diversity to ensure robust contract bidding, and provided wise counsel to LADWP's risk management team to ensure the department received the best value for its programs. And whereas Ms. Noonan and this board and staff are grateful to her husband Tim and their beautiful children Alexis and Eric for supporting her service on the board, as well as her mother Elizabeth Renati Bellinghausen, a proud Argentinian immigrant who sacrificed for her family and instilled in Christina the values of diligence, a strong work ethic, tenacity, honesty, responsibility, caring for others, and love. And whereas the loss of Ms. Noonan's leadership on the Board of Water and Power Commissioners will most certainly be felt, particularly her compassion and kindness with the board office staff and fellow commissioners, nonetheless, her impacts and service to protecting the environment, promoting diversity, and enhancing resiliency and sound fiscal management will continue long after her departure from the board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, on behalf of the management of this department, its employees, and the residents of the City of Los Angeles, thank Ms. Noonan for 15 years of dedicated public service. Be it further resolved that the Secretary be instructed to place this resolution in the minutes of this board as a permanent record, and that an engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to Ms. Noonan in recognition of her committed dedication to public service in this city, and that Ms. Noonan's remarks here today also be included so that they may be part of the board's permanent record. I move approval of that resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Sounds like you got a unanimous vote. Congratulations. Do you want to say a few words?
We have a couple of presentations too.
Oh, and we have, yeah, let's do these other presentations and then you can say a few words. So, first we have a presentation from the Society of Women's Engineers from Leah Malott and Eugenia Lin.
Commissioner Noonan, on behalf of LADWP Society of Women Engineers, would like to thank you for your unwavering support from day one, from our inception when we had our launch event about a year and a half ago. You were there to speak and represent the commissioners, and we really appreciate all the support and leadership that you provided the Society of Women Engineers, and we thank you and wish you all the best on your future endeavors. And we will be presenting you this certificate on behalf of Society of Women Engineers.
Thank you. I know you guys will do great things. Thank you. And thank you.
And I now would like to ask Brianna Lindsay to come up with a special presentation for Commissioner Noonan.
All right, so I'll introduce this if you don't mind. So Commissioner Noonan, on behalf of the water system, Rich unfortunately wasn't able to be here today, but he wanted to tell you how much he appreciates everything you did for the water system. He already texted you, all right. So we wanted to let you know how much we appreciate all your support as a leader. You know, when it came to issues of contracting and ensuring that we're doing the right thing, that was the first time I met you when I was acting director of supply chain services. And you always expected that we would do the best we could to have diversity and inclusion in all our contracts. Later on in my life as Director of Water Operations, working with you, with the tribes up in Owens Valley, spending an awful lot of time, like Marty said, on the road. I do remember really well that one trip. You have a really nice playlist, by the way. But also, I gotta tell you that being in several meetings with the tribal leaders, they were very touched and very honored to have a board member from LA Water and Power be there in their chambers, tribal chambers, speaking to them directly as a decision maker to decision makers. And that was because of you, because of your dedication and support to the water system and the Department of Water and Power. So I want to say a thank you on behalf of all of us in the water system. And Mr. Brianna Lindsay has a little gift that we want to give you. And I'll let you take it away, Lindsay.
See, all I thought I was going to have to do was the Vanna White thing. Just thought you had it in someone. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. Is it afternoon? Good morning, everyone. So this is presented to Commissioner Christina E. Noonan in recognition of your dedication to the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power for all the years of service as our commissioner. And we truly appreciate what you have done. And this is actually put together by our water distribution staff, who recognize the great work that you've done. And it's presented on September 24th, 2019. Congratulations.
And exactly what is that?
So it's something really cool that we do. It's actually a meter. It's a refurbished meter that's made into a clock. And we put it on a nice plaque type form. And it has a battery operated, so you can replace the battery. But it's really, really nice. So if you look at it, the face, which usually is where the meter dial is turned into a clock. So
Cool.
Nice.
Excellent.
Good job, Vanna.
Good job, Mr. Lindsay. Very good.
You can buy a vowel now.
Christina, would you like to say a few words?
Well, first of all, I'm so very, very moved by the comments that all of you have made, and for everyone in attendance and the gifts. This day is important to me for 3 reasons. First, this is my opportunity to thank the City of Los Angeles for having the confidence to reappoint me as a commissioner for the past 15 years. It has been a great, great privilege to serve, and I take immense pride in what we have accomplished together. Given your very lengthy resolution, I think we accomplished a lot of things together, and I take pride in that. DWP has been a second home to me for 10 years. You can tell by the playlist that Marty, General Manager Adams, spoke about. Spending so much time together, focusing on the right things to do takes a lot of time, and I hope that everyone in attendance here today understands the amount of time and love that's put into making things happen, and DWP does make things happen. I wish to commend the people of this department for the incredible work they've executed every minute of every day. I've been so impressed with not only just realizing our goals, but how we come to help others in times of need. And I leave today just taking great pride and friendship in what we created together. Second reason, I wish to acknowledge my beautiful children, Alexis and Eric, who missed school today, and their generation of leadership. Alexis and Eric, it's important to me that you understand why I've dedicated a great deal of time for the past 15 years to support our community. Without education, leadership, commitment, empathy, and discernment, little gets done. You need all of those things in line. I truly, truly hope that my footprint inspires you and your peers to work collectively and intelligently to make a difference in this world. Okay, this is the hardest part because I expected my mom to be here today, and I did put thoughts into my notes. Unfortunately, my mom was too ill to be by my side today, but I will continue on and revise my last paragraph. Lastly, this resolution is especially significant to me because my mother is present here today to receive it as my gift to her. Even though she's not physically present, spiritually she is. And as soon as the resolution is gifted to me, we will immediately go and see her and give it to her. So thank you for that. And thank you for this day. My mother is an Argentinian immigrant who worked 2 to 3 jobs most of her life, sleeping only 3 to 4 hours a night. Yet while raising my brother and I, she always instilled values of a diligent work ethic, tenacity, honesty, responsibility, caring for others, and love. I hope I have mirrored her example. My mother deserves this resolution above all else, given the inspiration and the determination she has always shown to me and others. And although she cannot be here today, I truly believe that she lives within all of us, and I hope that all of you, including me, will continue to rise up to her stature of being, because she always does the right thing, the honest thing, the truthful thing, and she's tenacious and tough, and I expect all of you to continue being so. All right. I can't thank you enough for today.
Christina, can you and your children and sister join us for some pictures with the resolution and your colleagues? They'll come up here. You need to ditch your chair on mine, I think. You've got all those words on this one.
Yeah.
The print's kind of small.
Okay, it's going to my mom after this, so thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Scoot over just a little bit. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Center, a little bit more, right there. That's good. Okay. Here we go. All right, here's the first one. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay, here's the first one. Big smile on to. Ready? 1, 2. See how that looks. Wonderful. Here we go again. Big smile. Here we go again. Good. Another one right here. Okay, big group hug, everyone. I only do this for commissioners. Big group hug. Big group hug. Go right this way. There you go. There you go, right here. That's good. Right here. Big smile. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next to my mom. Thank you. Thank you, Sonia.
We will move to public comment, and I understand we have 6 public comment cards.
Yes, the first speaker is Andrea Rojas, and please limit your time to 2 minutes.
Great. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Andrea Rojas, Program Coordinator for the Sierra Club. I'll be talking about commenting on the feed-in tariff expansion. So Sierra Club strongly supports the staff proposal to expand the program. This proposal puts LADWP on a path to meeting the mayor's local solar targets and allows businesses to play a crucial role in providing local clean energy generation in our push towards 100% clean energy future. As we have seen, the FIT program has been a huge success, approximately $500 million in economic activity, the creation of thousands of local jobs, and nearly 40% of all projects being located in disadvantaged communities. We urge you to approve the staff proposal. Sierra Club is excited to not only invest in clean energy to grow our local economy, but also put these resources in communities where health and economic benefits are needed the most. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Andres Ramirez, followed by Jeremy Johnson.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Andres Ramirez. I'm here on behalf of Pacoma Beautiful. Pacoma Beautiful is excited to also support the expansion of the feed-in tariff program. For years, we have worked alongside our coalition partners, Los Angeles Business Councils, to bring solar installations to the Northeast Valley, and even recently won a $23 million Transformative Climate Communities program from the state to help make the Pacoima a model for LA's transition to clean energy. A major component for our success has been the FIT program. Alongside grid alternatives, we are creating well-paying local jobs in the valley for our community, and not to mention creating long-term investment opportunities for local business owners. As a community that has long been overlooked by the city, being the center of equitable clean energy transition rests in large part on the future of FIT. This program also brings cleaner air to Pacoima, which sees higher than average child asthma rates due to fossil fuel pollution. Pacoima Beautiful strongly supports the expansion of the FIT program and respectfully request your support for the program as well. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeremy Johnson. I'm with a company called Perma-City Skybridge. Spoke about a month ago at this facility as well. But as a partner of Perma-City Skybridge, I just speak on behalf of extending the feed-in tariff program. And for our company in particular, it's been a tremendous amount because we employ veterans and disadvantaged workers. I've got the privilege of serving in the United States military for the last 28 years, still serving in the Army Reserve. And we actively seek out and employ military veterans in particular. And with our partners in the Local 300 and Local 11, we're able to provide them not just the benefits and salaries that effectively can afford to support a family, but also the training and upward mobility. So this program has been really marquee in making that available for us and for them. So I just thank you for your support of the program.
Nuret Cox and Ed McClure.
Hi, Narit Katz, Chief Sustainability Officer for UCLA. I wanted to take a moment to thank the board and also to thank the hardworking leadership and staff of LADWP for really charting a course towards a renewable, cleaner and smarter future for our city, and as a model, as one of the largest utilities, really showing what's possible. I wanted to actually speak in support of 3 items on the agenda today. The first is very close to home and really, really exciting to finally have, which is the renewable rate, item number 14. This is the result of a lot of hard work and collaboration, legal and technical work, that really is creating a model, a new model for a renewable rate that hopefully can be helpful to other organizations within Los Angeles. We are really, really grateful for the work that went into this and really excited to begin this new partnership. We also are grateful to DWP for partnering with us on energy efficiency. And together, these efforts will help UCLA and UC to become the first major research university to achieve carbon neutrality. We also appreciate DWP's collaboration with our Sustainable LA Grand Challenge in really modeling for LA County and helping to move the entire region towards renewables. So to that end, I'd also like to offer support for item 20 and extending the renewable energy study. I serve on the advisory board for the 100% renewables effort and would love to see that continue. And lastly, I would like to join the Sierra Club, Pacoima Beautiful, Perma City, and others in supporting the expansion of the feed-in tariff. This is a program which UCLA researchers helped contribute to the design of initially. And we are really excited at long last. We are hoping to participate in the program if it does successfully expand. So definitely echo all of the comments about the contribution to local economy, as well as to cleaner air and renewable energy for the basin. So thank you all for your time, and thank you especially to Louis Ting, George Chen, Jason Rondow, Arash, everybody who has contributed to this new rate. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Ed McClure, and it's kind of hard to follow that retirement there. My agenda is to announce my candidacy to run for business manager at Local 18, and to see the faces who eventually I'll see, and hope to see more of you. That's it. Thank you.
Good luck.
David Bond.
Good morning. My name is David Bond. I'm a senior electrical mechanic. And we have a problem here at the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power with upper management and supervision at replacing personnel working in the power section and power division. In July of this year, 2019, the most complicated, confusing org chart ever came out, where there were 163 positions with 43 of them vacant. Now, I filed a grievance because there was no supervisor at my remote facility, the Pine Tree Wind Farm, or power plant. When I was denied my grievance, I was also explained to by the assistant general manager that the problem is they do no longer want to promote anyone such as I with knowledge and experience in the field, because by doing so, it creates a void, and there are too many new employees that are not getting this knowledge and experience. Now, this creates a problem for me, as I now have 30 years in of experience, and being one of the few that still is out in the field to this date. I now was told by my assistant general manager that they do not want to promote me or anyone like me. This causes a class action problem for all persons with my job classification and the classification of electrical mechanic, distribution mechanic, and senior electrical distribution mechanic. I would like the opportunity to promote. I have been here for 30 plus years, and there are a few other dilemmas involved. So I've created a text, and this text is called 2020 Vision for All. It has a significant amount of advice and suggestions to deal with these particular problems. The text is 40 pages. It is a book. About 20 of them are specifically about the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and the rest are just good advice for life. I have a copy for each of the commissioners and our general manager, Mr. Adams, and I'd appreciate assistance with fulfilling the EEO responsibilities of supervision and management and allowing me, a 30-year veteran, to promote eventually. I climb a 200-foot ladder up wind turbines every day. And yes, it takes a toll on your body sooner or later. Please allow those that are qualified to promote. Fill the positions in the power section that are missing. It's been a void for years, and we'd like to correct that.
Thank you. If you could give the reports to the law enforcement officers in the back. Thank you. Susie, do we have any other?
This closes public comment.
Okay, so General Manager?
I have just a few things to report. First of all, just very recently, we were awarded a top utility brand for the third year in a row. This was done through a national survey that compares utilities throughout the United States, and we were recognized as one of the top utilities in the West. I'd like to ask Sharon Grove, who heads up our customer services division, to come and speak a little bit about the award that we've just received. This is great news for us. Go ahead, Sharon.
Good morning, Commissioners. I would like to talk a little bit about this award. We are surveyed each and every year by many, many organizations. Some of the surveys are transactional surveys. Some are surveys that are just random samples of our customer base. This particular award, they survey our business customer base. A couple years ago, our customer service representatives were trained either on business customer calls or residential customer calls. And what we did in the customer service division is we trained every single one of our customer service representatives to take both types of calls. What happened at that point is instead of having a business customer call us and get transferred every single time, now a customer can call and get handled the first time by a representative that's trained to handle their specific business-oriented questions. And then in addition, what we've done in the customer service division, we've further trained and hired account advisors, which are staff that handle our very, very large, complex customers and helping them generate energy efficiency programs and water conservation programs. And I think all of those efforts, including many, many, many efforts across the department, have helped get us this award this year. So I thank you very much.
And congratulations on your work, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just have a quick question. What's the criteria for the award?
The different criteria that they use, there's a lot of different characteristics that they survey for. It's the customer service piece, responsiveness to field questions, safety and reliability, which is very typical of these, and response time, communication, effectiveness. So all those things, they're questioned, and so it's about. So a lot of these things are about interactions they have with us. So they're driven by things that they've done to interact with the department.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we were ranked in the top 20 utilities in the United States.
Yep.
Thank you so much. And that just reminded me, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who praised highly the customer service that he received. He worked in the real estate office, and they have this new building coming up, and I think it's a new account. So he basically told me that he now believes that in DWP and how we really provide quality service, because that person stayed with him for almost 30-40 minutes on the phone resolving all of the types of transactions that need to be done. So that's a testament, and for me, hearing it firsthand from a customer of ours is really impressive. So thank you so much, and thank you to your team.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. We have more good news. Speaking of buildings, this building received the first ever U.S. Green Building Council Pacific Region Leadership Award for decarbonization. This is part of our ongoing efforts to modernize our facilities to have them become more increasingly energy efficient and conservative of water. I'd asked Nancy Sutley to come up and describe a little about what's been done here and the award that we just received.
Thank you, Marty, and good morning, Commissioners. Yes, we're very pleased to have received this award from the U.S. Green Building Council for the John Ferraro Building for decarbonization. And so this follows on a lot of work here in the building to increase energy efficiency and to incorporate new technology into this all-electric building. As you may recall, we received LEED certification for this building in 2015 and continue to make improvements on energy efficiency, on working on our water conservation, on ramping up the in-house solar and putting in batteries, working on that as well. And so we've also, as part of this, are committing to pursuing zero energy for this building. So we would net out our carbon emissions for this building, and once we do that, it'll be the first building in California to have achieved this. So this is an ongoing process working between the sustainability staff and the facilities staff here work very hard on this, as well as across the department, as Marty said, looking for opportunities to improve the performance of our facilities. And I might also mention, not to get ahead of ourselves, but next week we'll have a little ceremony at the Little Kretz Innovation Campus, which is receiving its LEED Platinum as well as its WELL Building certification. So these efforts both help the department work better, manage more efficiently, but also, and probably most importantly, show to building owners across Los Angeles what's possible to do to reduce energy and water consumption at their buildings. And so thanks to everybody, the team that worked on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And I do believe very strongly that we have to lead by example, and it does no good to have tremendous programs for our customers if we don't take advantage of the same things ourselves. So I think that we're trying to do our best to send the right message. The last thing is I want to let you know that being a city employee gains us all the opportunity to be on call in an emergency by requirement. And so we are hosting an employee emergency preparedness fair downstairs midday tomorrow. And one of the things that I can tell you from experience in the 1994 earthquake was that when the shaking stops and you've assessed your house, the first thing you do is leave your family behind and go to work. So making sure our employees are prepared to take on their responsibilities to the city besides to their families is very important. So I hope that everyone who's here and listening make sure you take advantage of that, because being prepared personally is the first step to being able to take care of the rest of our obligations. So with that, that's the end of my report.
Okay, that was a very good report and very welcome. Comments from commissioners on agendized items and requests from commissioners relating to departmental operations. Commissioner Barad.
Thank you. This morning's LA Times on the front page had an article about, in case of wildfires, that power will be preemptively turned off. And I wondered if DWP is going to do this. It didn't mention DWP, but I wondered if that's something that you're talking about.
So this is Louis Ting here. So as the power system has looked at the previous legislation and the current one, as far as the SB 901 that was passed, we're working on a wildfire mitigation plan. And because our system is built differently than our neighboring, we actually have they actually have reclosers on this distribution systems. So if their lines are down, they actually can try to reclose, and some of the causes may have been due to reclose, and we don't do that on the transmission side. We do on distribution, but because of our footprint is completely different, meaning that we're not exposed to the high wind potential issues, but also we're in an urban setting, so we're not mostly in the more of a vegetated area. So we have a different risk mitigation than other utilities would have. So they do more preemptive by looking at the weather patterns, but we also do that. But we also have more urban setting where the wildfire is not as big of an issue as others.
But if the wires come down or the poles come down, then what do we do? What is your plan?
So on the transmission side, when the wires go down, we actually have patrols go out and survey and actually survey the situation. Because our system is resilient enough, we can actually direct the power flow from other system to serve the power. But we seldom had those issues happen. And I remember last time was actually in a Bishop where one of the goat herders and actually backed the truck into the transmission line. That caused the transmission line to come down. That was the last one I can remember. That was that. And then besides the blue cut fire that caused the transmission issue, those are a very seldom one. For distribution ones, system, obviously we're in a smaller urban setting, so we can get to it. And obviously our fire department has a response in less than 5 minutes. So those are all the things that we take account into our mitigation plan.
Well, the last fire, I think it was last November, West Hills, in that area around there, had fires. And I know my son lives there, and he was evacuated because the fire was at the end of the street. And he's in the DWP area. So what would you have done?
And
there?
I don't have that information at this moment. And if somebody like Dan Barnes is down here, if you can kind of address that, what happened during the West Hill fires, and that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. Dan Barnes, I'm the Director of Power Transmission and Distributions. The West Hills fire was part of the fire that was Edison when their lines came down, and it moved into LADWP's territory. We have reclosures on all of our lines, our distribution lines. It will relay. It basically shuts the power off, but then it'll come on, back on automatically on most of these areas. We're looking, part of our wildfire mitigation plan is we will block those reclosures, but that's something in the future, and we're looking at doing. But our lines, our patrolmen are out 24/7. We have them out inspecting our lines, and during the red flag days that we have, we back off our crews. Our crews are not in the areas where these the fire areas are, the tier 2 areas that we have here. And if they have to work in there, it's only on emergency work only.
Right, so if the fire is in the Edison area, but then moves over into our area, that's when you...
Yeah, we
crews are
obviously
out
obviously that fire that was going on, we had crews out there monitoring the areas and watching as they came. We did have a couple of poles that were scorched, but nothing significant damage to any of our facilities. If we did have one of our facilities catch on fire due to that, we would have dropped that circuit if need be. So, just if I may, red flag warning last week, Southern California Edison, Mono County, they dropped the entire Mono County. That was Mammoth, all those communities up there. And we also have what's a fringe up there, and we have a line that they feed us. They dropped our line as well because they feed us. We had our patrolmen, before that line was re-energized, go and patrol that entire section and document what was found. And we did have a pole that came down, and they repaired that before it was energized.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. And once our mitigation plan is ready for presentation, we'll bring it back to the board and give a briefing.
Okay, thank you, Louis.
Other commissioner comments on agendized items?
I have a couple comments, and I guess staff or Joe let me know if they're sufficiently related to the agenda or not. First, I'd like to just congratulate our newly confirmed GM. I think that's since our last meeting, that's fine. That's yes. Occurred. So it's now official and formal, and so I wanted to acknowledge that. Also, like Commissioner Berard, there, in addition to Marty's confirmation, there was also an announcement that the department will be exploring, that we'll be adding an Inspector General position, which is something that is currently underway in terms of how that office would be structured, and I think well advised in the context of the department's ongoing review of its oversight and management capacity. I also think that it's appropriate that the board review its own posture with respect to how or steps that we can take to strengthen oversight as well. And along those lines, am looking toward our relationship with the current ratepayer advocate, a position that was added to the department by charter in order to increase transparency and to serve as an additional advisor to this board. I think it would be appropriate for the board to look at what actions it can take by way of policy to better facilitate the work and operation of that office, and look forward to working with the ratepayer advocate and with Marty and also with Joe to facilitate that. In addition, both as it relates to board action in terms of its own policy and operation, I'm also interested in looking at ways that we can formalize through an MOU or some other means the way in which the Ratepayer Advocate's Office receives information from the department, interacts with the department, again, to better facilitate the workings of that office and their reviews. So I would be looking forward to having this item agendized formally at some future meeting, not too distant future, where we can review and take some action if appropriate. That's it for me.
So for my item today, I just would like the department to take a look at the impact and how we're mitigating the tariffs or the taxes imposed on the imports, because our electricity production is heavily dependent on materials like steel and concrete, copper and aluminum. And even with our renewable energy like wind and solar that require 10 times more transmission, it's also heavily steel intensive, since they are usually sited away from where the energy is used. So I would just like to see or request the department, probably at next month's meeting, to give us a report on the impact of those tariffs on our department's equipment and material supplies related to any price increases, shortage of inventory because of the increased cost, our own procurement hurdles, and impact on our existing infrastructure projects and incoming design build projects. So, so that then we're comfortable that we are in a good position with all of these projects that are going to come up the pipe. Thank you.
Ratepayer Advocate.
We have specific comments on items 11, 20, and 22. I can make them now, or if items 11, 20, and 22 are going to be called special, I can wait until later on those comments, and then we'll have other comments as the need arises.
Well, we have one comment card on item 20, and we have two comment cards on item 22.
We just received another card for item 20.
Okay, so there are two comment cards on 20, two comment cards on 22. So why don't we hold those off of the consent calendar so that people can comment, and you can comment there. And we have no comment cards on 11.
I actually was going to pull 11.
Okay, so 11 will also be pulled. Okay, discussion with neighborhood council representatives on any neighborhood council resolution or community impact statement filed with the city clerk which relate to any agenda item listed or being considered on this agenda for the Water and Power Board.
Community impact statements from the following neighborhood councils were received: Palms Neighborhood Council and West Side Neighborhood Council. However, no speakers are present.
Okay. So moving to items to be pulled for public comment. Commissioner McLean Hill wants to pull 11,
11, 13, and 30.
and 13, and 30. I was also going to pull 30.
20 and comments.
Item number 15 for me, please.
And 15.
I just have some clarifying questions.
And 20 and 22 are being pulled because of speaker cards.
Okay, and I would like to add 24 and 28, please.
All right.
Okay, just a second. So what's left for potential consent calendar are items 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 23, 25, 26, 27, and 29. Is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those are approved. So the items that we will hear after we hear from management reports and any other administrative item are, we will hear items 11, 13, 15, 20, 22, 24, 28, and 30. So we move to management reports. Human external cargo, Dan Barnes and Graham Peace.
Today we're having staff to present this very unique industry coined a name for a very safe operational efficiency improvements on our work, and I'm not going to give it away. So it's a very exciting video that they're going to show you.
Just from a thumb drive, not from downloading YouTube.
But it's not for the faint of heart.
I know.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Marty. Yeah, it's always an honor to come and present some great things that the power system's doing, particularly the power transmission and distribution. Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I did a presentation with a couple others, and we got through it halfway through. And through the Wi-Fi and YouTube, it didn't work, but I came prepared today with the almighty thumb drive, so we're good. So we're going to be good on that, hopefully. If it doesn't, then, well, yeah, we'll see what happens. So our overhead transmission group maintains over 3,500 miles of transmission lines throughout California, Nevada, goes into Delta, Utah, and also has 15,500 towers that we also maintain. Graham Peace is the manager over this transmission group, and his group consists of 30 people, 30 line patrol mechanics, and 6 supervisors. And the presentation today is just a brief overview of the human external cargo. It's also known as HEC. And the board, you have supported this in various ways. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Graham for the presentation.
Good morning. I would like to start by thanking the Board of Commissioners, DWP Management, Local 18, and JTI for the assistance and support that it was required to get this program off the ground, no pun intended. We first started looking into human external cargo in 2015. We realized at the onset that we needed buy-in from our management, Local 18, as well as the pilots and the line patrol mechanics that were going to be taking on this task. This was a new work procedure for us. There was a lot of trepidation because not only is it a unique skill set that's required, but there's also an element of risk that appears in this form of work, dangling below a helicopter. People have called it dope on a rope, various other endearing terms. So this buy-in was accomplished by hiring well, we didn't hire them. We had them come to a presentation. They were called Air Rescue Systems. They're the premier premier group that is doing human external cargo. Not only do they do this for line work, but they also do it for police, fire, SWAT, and the military. And so we aimed high as far as who we wanted to train our employees. They came and did 2 separate meetings. The first meeting was for the line patrol mechanics and the pilots, and the second one was for management and Local 18. And the response we got was overwhelmingly positive. So at this point in time, we formed a joint labor management committee and started moving forward on how we were going to enact this program. So over the next few years, we addressed several issues. This went from a hazard pay for the employees that would perform this, the pilots and the line patrol mechanics. We also had to develop an in-house procedure so that we could make sure that this was done safely and comprehensively. And we also ran into issues in the middle of this with the FAA that decided that they were going to enforce a little-known regulation that would prohibit the use of the hooks on the bottom of the helicopters. All these were overcome, and last year, in October, we began doing the training. This training encompassed 4 separate classes. In that time, we trained 6 supervisors, 28 line patrol mechanics, and 4 pilots. Each class was consisting of 3 modules, and each one of these modules went over a different skill that was required to do this. The main thing that we were trying to get across to our employees is that there's a difference between hazardous and dangerous. And our job is hazardous, and the hazards can be mitigated. It's not dangerous, because we do mitigate those hazards. And so right now we have a short video that we'd like to show you that shows the training that we went through.
Can I ask a quick question up front? My understanding is that this, in theory, is easier on the body and the folks in the hack than actually having to climb the tower from the bottom. Because this is kind of where the industry is going. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, significantly, because OSHA has imposed several regulations on us. While they aim to make it safer, it's made the climbing of towers much more cumbersome, much more time-consuming, and also much more physically demanding. So this enables us to get to the locations we need to do the work far quicker with a lot less exertion. What's the sound?
Hey, Reggie, you got the sound?
Well, there had to be a glitch, Dan.
Reggie's going to sign my retirement papers.
That looks like fun. Can we do that?
I'm sure it can be arranged.
Yes.
35.
Don't eat first.
I haven't touched anything. I think of all the board meetings, I've never seen a glitches, and there's 2 for me.
While we're waiting for Reggie, you do have to be certified to be able to do the Human External Cargo Program. You also have to be certified to train, but there is the possibility of taking employees up who aren't certified, because we actually have a rescue program where there are rescue devices and other devices where employees that aren't trained in this, they're considered, I hate to say it, cargo. And so at that point in time, they don't have to go to training. Any involvement where the employee has to hook themselves up to the line has to have training. But if you're just basically a passenger, then there's no training required.
It said it was plugged in.
What's going on, Reggie?
It looks like an important part of commission orientation.
I was going to say we could offer a ride for anybody with it.
It's not quite the same without the music.
It's not at all. It's great music.
Yes, we're going to do.
You guys
Okay, well, I can continue on.
It's starting right now. It's 28.
While Reggie has his 30 seconds, do you have any questions before we get started on the video?
How does this affect the requirements for hiring? So that, people don't have to climb up the pole?
Our line patrol mechanics, to get to that level to where you can do this, they're not hired directly into that position. They have to progress through the department's apprenticeship. And so it takes quite a while to get to the position before you get to do this training. So it doesn't really affect the hiring. Where it would affect the hiring would be our helicopter pilots. They're very stringent. They have very strict regulations about who they hire for pilots, because flying in the wire environment, that is the most hazardous environment that a pilot can fly in. So they've got very strict standards, and they want to see that people have experience doing what we call long line work, which is where they use the ropes to bring, whether it's air conditioners or tools for our line patrol mechanics, or human external cargo. So most of our pilots have had that experience already. We've got pilots that were they worked for the they've worked for the military. They've already done a lot of this work prior to hiring in with Department of Water and Power.
And this doesn't eliminate the climbing skill. This just adds another skill set. They still have to climb before. Our apprenticeship is 4 years long, and they still have to go through that apprenticeship program.
But you don't test someone's ability to be hooked up and then go up and then flip over and...
Well, like Graham, it's it's a 4-year apprenticeship program, and then it's 2 years as a journey level before they qualify to go into the line patrol mechanic job. So it's a promotion later on in their career. So at that time they get tested.
And this program is strictly voluntary. So the employees who do this, and the pilots and the line patrol mechanics, it's all voluntary.
And how many pilots do we have?
We have 6 current pilots and 4 are trained in doing this.
And how long are the classes? You said there are 4 classes.
The classes are 9 days.
Okay.
They're approximately a 10 to 12 hour day to go through all the training. And it's 3 different elements in the classes. So it teaches them how to hook up to the helicopter, how to be picked up and dropped off on structures, and then there's also an element which is all about rescue and how to rescue people from the towers.
And the certification, is that from the FAA or from
No, the FAA
another
isn't.
agency?
This is kind of an anomaly right now that the FAA, they're monitoring it, but they don't have any rules governing this.
Okay.
There is a governing body called HIA, which is watching over this, and OSHA's paying attention, but there aren't any strict rules and regulations on this yet. The FAA's ruling was based on a hook that's used underneath a helicopter. They wanted to see redundancy, and so DWP, there was a system that we could purchase that was placed on a helicopter, so there's a 2-hook system below each helicopter. That way there's a redundancy. So if one hook was to fail, the second hook is there as a backup.
Do you have any women helicopter pilots?
Not at this time.
Because?
I couldn't answer that, I'm afraid.
Actually, our pilots are actually hired off the civil service list, so they take an exam like everybody else does. I don't know what the candidate pools look like, to be honest, but I could find out. There are more and more women helicopter pilots, particularly coming from the military, than there were in the past. A lot of our pilots, we have 1 or 2 that are former military. We used to get them all from there, but now we also have folks that have been flying. Oil work in the South Pacific. They've been flying light flight. We have folks that have worked in the Owens Valley, flying for the U.S. Forest Service. So they're all very well rounded with a great background and experience. But we all are still subject to the candidate pool that comes through the civil service system. So we have some great pilots, but it's a good question.
Well, I know that we're trying to encourage women to be not poll workers, that sounds like a...
line mechanics. Line mechanics.
Line mechanics.
Right.
So, it was linemen. It's called linemen. We call them line mechanics now because women are getting into the trade. Looks like it's coming up, Marty.
And several years ago, we did in overhead transmission, we did have a woman that was a line patrol mechanic. She was in our section for quite a while before she retired and was exemplary employee.
Got the thumbs up.
Need volume.
That's completely nuts.
Well, you can see there's a lot of communications, and Graham could speak on that with the, you see the tape on top of their helmets that they have with our pilots. Our pilots are excellent, and we can't thank them enough for what they do. Also, our line patrol mechanics and what they go out and do. This saves them a lot, as you were asking about climbing, because you normally have to climb the towers and rig and bring up some of this equipment. The big balls, I think I heard someone say, what are those? Those are marker balls. Those are the big balls you see on top of the static line, it's for aircraft, so they could see, they know that it's there. So, Graham, you want to add anything else?
So all the training you saw there, that took place in Truesdale at our training facility. Our linemen aren't bobbleheads. They have the tape, if you noticed, on the top of the hard hat. And the sign is, yes, I want to go to heaven, and no, I don't want to go to hell. So this means they don't want to, this means they want to go down, and this means they want to go up. Because the thing is, we don't necessarily have radio communication. So when the pilot's looking down on a 50 or 100-foot line, he needs to know what they need. And so that's the best way.
Yeah.
And so when he's coming into a location, they're shaking their heads to let them know to come down, and then they're saying, okay, stop. So that's what that is.
And how many people are certified to do this?
28 at this time. So we implemented the new program immediately. We started off with very small tasks, and we've gradually increased in scope and complexity. We used it on our recent Castaic job, where we were landing line patrol mechanics in the towers. We're going to be using it extensively in the next month. We're going to be spending a month in Nevada re-insulating our Pacific DC line. We're going to be using the program there. Some of the benefits that we've realized from this are, one, it allows us to get to remote locations that we normally can't get to. It's significantly decreasing our footprint in sensitive areas. Our transmission lines cross a lot of national forests, and this reduces our vehicle footprint, and we can fly into these locations. Also, what it's done is it's minimized hazards to the linemen. Even though it looks very dangerous, it is very, very safe. There's a lot of redundancy built into this, and it is far easier on the linemen than climbing. Another added benefit is that the work that was normally contracted out can now be done in-house. A lot of this work was handed off to other companies to do. We can now do it in-house. And it's improved our emergency response and safety. And that, as you saw from that video, we had several different scenarios there where we could rescue the linemen out of a tower much quicker than we could in normal circumstances. So I'd like to close by saying that this program it's beneficial to LADWP, and that it's helping our employees, but also I think it's a great benefit to the customers we serve, because this has given us another tool that we can use to guarantee that we have some of the best, most reliable power in the United States. So thank you for your time.
And we also constantly train on this, and offer, if you guys are interested, when we're doing the training, to have you come out and watch some of the guys as they do their training. So it's much more impressive if you get to see them live. So.
Cynthia wants a ride.
I do.
It can be arranged.
We can arrange that.
Thank you very, very much. Very impressive.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That worked. Yeah, a little spot.
Management reports, financial services, June 2019.
The June preliminary report is in your package if you have any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Power system, August, and RPS, August.
The report's in our packet if you have any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Water system, July.
Reports in your package. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Hearing none. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve both the regular board meeting of minutes of the regular board meeting of August 27th and of the September 10th regular board meeting?
So moved. Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? They're both approved. Okay, we go to those items that were pulled from the consent calendar. We start with item 11. Revised limit of consecutive annual audits by an audit firm to conform to section 12410.6B of the California Government Code. Cynthia, was this your pull?
Yes.
Do you want to, a presentation?
Maybe Ann could give a little
We
recap
have a
of
brief
what we're proposing.
presentation just explaining the background.
Sure.
Is there a presentation? Oh, there we go.
So back in 2002, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act was passed when the Enron and WorldCom fiascos happened. And at that time, everybody anticipated that there would be mandatory auditor rotation policies. However, none of them occurred. So as policy moved forward, the department realized it had the same auditors for quite some time, and in July of 2004, it implemented a audit rotation policy that looked at the firm and established that a firm cannot be an auditor for more than 12 consecutive fiscal year audits. However, in July of 2012, and between 2004 and 2012, that debate between whether it's an audit firm or the partners in the firm should be rotated continued on. So in July of 2012, the California Government Code was established 12410.6b, which said that your rotation should be at the partner level, and you could have no audit partners, either the partner in charge or the concurring partner, for more than 6 consecutive years. And then in addition to that, the House of Representatives also had a policy that said that the Public Company Oversight Board for investor-owned firms, they could not mandatorily state that you had to have an auditor firm rotation policy. So in light of this, the department, I'm requesting to change our policy to conform to the California Government Code, because that's what we currently are required to follow for investments, financial reporting, and other items as such. I am aware that the Office of Public Accountability has issued a report, not specifically challenging this, but challenging the department's change of auditors. We have had KPMG as our audit firm for the past 15 years. There's 4 large firms, KPMG, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, and PwC. PwC and KPMG have government arms on the West Coast that serve us. However, KPMG has been the only one that's bid because of financial conflicts and such with PwC. Right now, we have an RFP on the street for audit services for fiscal year 20 to 24. Supply Chain Services has extended the codes that people are bidding. We had our bidders conference last week. We had 3 firms that were primarily looking at bidding. One was our incumbent firm, and then 2 new ones. However, I understand from Supply Chain Services over 50 firms have downloaded our RFP response, so including Ernst & Young. So we may have more people that are looking to come into our territory, but I feel that it's still appropriate for us to follow the California Government Code and then work through the RFP process.
Ratepayer advocate?
We encourage DWP and ask the board to direct management to conduct a nationwide RFI in this front and seek appropriately skilled management team for our municipal utility team for audit services. DWP has been with the same accounting firm for a long time, and it's important to recognize in this context that DWP is among all utilities in the U.S., and there are 3,000 of them, about 200 of them investor-owned. DWP ranks 16th in terms of revenue. And I believe the next closest public entity is 25th. So we're surrounded by investor-owned utilities in terms of our scale. And perhaps the tighter standards of the investor-owned utilities may be appropriate to reflect on in this context. We think an increased effort to change auditors is overdue. We understand the role of changing the partner, but I think it's also helpful to consider changing auditors, not because of any known problem or with the existing auditors or audits, but it'd be useful to go through the effort of changing auditors.
Thank you for that. I did look at this item, and I appreciate the feedback on the RFP. I was interested particularly in the recommendation by the ratepayer advocate with respect to a nationwide search, which seemed to indicate that one of the constraints or limitations with respect to the current incumbent firm is that we are relying primarily on West Coast resources. And is there something to that? Because I would prefer to see a much more robust pool and effort to reach beyond the incumbent.
I think that would come down to price. Deloitte and Ernst & Young have, they audit large utilities in the mid United States and on the East Coast. And if we said that a price wasn't as important to us and we wanted more to have that change in partner, they might be likely to bid so that they could recover all of the costs that would, be required to come out to California to do the work. I would just want to make sure that we had adequate resources that would be responsive to our needs, even though they weren't, in the local area.
We think that money would be well spent.
I was going to say, I mean, we're, a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, and this is not a small or insignificant function. And there is, I think, a great deal of value in ensuring that we have independence. Independence which is often eroded over the course of very, very, very long relationships. And while I appreciate the utility of shifting partners, that doesn't go as far as one might think in the context of sort of firm interest as shifting firms altogether. So to the extent that that is a constraint, I think it's a constraint that we should be what is it? Penny wise, pound foolish. I'm very concerned about the length of incumbency as it relates to this particular assignment and this particular work.
So we have two choices. We could revise the policy and let everybody bid and then go through the process. We can make sure the RFP reflects, or we judge as little as possible on price, or don't, just use that as a negotiating part after the selection process. Or we cannot change the policy, which will then exclude the current policy would exclude the current firm if we don't change the policy. So it's really a matter of who's allowed to bid or submit proposals.
Does the ratepayer advocate have a view on whether the current auditor should be allowed to bid in the broad bidding process?
We would prefer there be a change, but I don't think there should be an absolute prohibition.
I tend to agree with that.
Yeah, and as it relates to price, and what you're talking about is really the degree to which firms are penalized because they're travel. I mean, it's not price as it relates to the hourly component of the, the services that are being provided. I think that, it's sort of mixing apples and oranges. So from my perspective, it's really a matter of not having the fact that there may be some additional cost related to travel reflected as a limitation or sort of part of the comparison as you're looking at rates.
Right.
But again, I think it's critically important that we, given this work, that we create some better distance between management and the audit team that's conducting the work. So however that's best accomplished is what I'd like to see occur. I don't necessarily think that, I think the policies, I don't have great heartburn with respect to the policy in terms of conforming with California law, but as it relates to our practices, which are leading to a result that is inconsistent with what I think best practice should be, we should change those practices.
We have the RFP open right now. Potentially what we could do is send a solicitation to Deloitte and Ernst & Young and just say something to the effect that costs would not be as graded as high, so travel and housing of auditors, maybe
well,
that
simply,
wouldn't be.
Isn't it just for purposes of evaluation of price that you're excluding travel and housing as it relates to evaluating the proposals?
Yes.
Right.
So
Because all you're really reimbursing in those situations is out-of-pocket costs. And
Correct.
it's not as if they're fungible in
Yeah.
some way. And you could establish policies around travel so that, they're not traveling first class. You can
We
determine.
We would normally
so
do
there
that
are
on
things
a-
that you do.
Yeah, we
So-
negotiate that in
yeah.
the contract.
Right.
In this case, and we do have, as Ann said, a number of other people that have looked at the RFP. We don't know who else might be out there, who might try to partner together and create, but one thing we do know is that we want to make sure that when the RFP closes, that we have a selection of qualified vendors to choose from.
Right.
And so one of the concerns that Ann and I talked about this was making sure that we did have qualified, people proposing, and that's why we were seeking a change in policy to be consistent with state law.
The current draft closes the first week of October, so we could look at how many bids we actually receive, and if we're not satisfied that there's a sufficient candidate pool that would allow us to have an auditor that has utility our size experience auditing it, we could reopen the bid.
Good.
That's good.
So why don't we proceed along those lines and also develop some language relating to the cost, out-of-pocket cost issues?
I have a question. How does this changing the auditor, how does that impact our working with the Los Angeles City Controller, who does audit of DWP as well?
It doesn't impact it at all. We're continually audited by the city controller. No invoice over $10,000 leaves the department currently without the city controller looking at it. So, and we are also consolidated as part of the city consolidated annual financial report. So all of that same information would go to them as well.
Okay, and then I think we'd have to write something in that there is some kind of a relationship with the controller and the new auditor.
They work together. The city's auditors rely on the department's auditors for detailed work on the department. I don't think there's anything specific we need to write on that, but when the contract comes forward for new audit services, we'll have to make sure that
it's
housing,
understood. Yeah.
it is understood.
Yes.
But also the housing and travel costs are just reimbursed at cost and not maybe part of the factor in evaluating firms.
Thank you.
So procedurally, we're no longer talking about approving this specific language, I think.
I think we were talking about approving this language that would allow the incumbent to bid, but when we receive all of the results, that would be the recommendation on the next audit contract that would be changed or have wording in it that would say your travel costs would not be held against you for bidding on this project.
So is there any need to change this specific, the language that we're voting on right now?
I would request that we change it to conform to the California Government Code.
Okay.
So moved.
Second? Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Ann.
Thank you.
Okay, item 13, proposed professional services agreement number 47575-0 between the City of Los Angeles acting by and through LADWP and Nossaman LLP.
Good morning, Commissioners. Julie Riley from the City Attorney's Office. I was here last time and I couldn't quite answer the question that Commissioner McLean-Hill was asking about the required forms that the City Attorney's Office requires when it issues an RFP. And I guess just to take a step back, the City Attorney's Office issues the request for proposals when we hire outside counsel to assist the City Attorney's Office here at the Department of Water and Power. And so some of the required forms that DWP has required, they have not required of the City Attorney RFPs. And it seems like that was a bit of a disconnect. And as far as the Nossaman response to the DWP City Attorney's Office RFP, they did complete all of the required forms. However, the reason that DWP uses a different outreach mechanism is because they have found in the past, and Aaron can correct me if I'm wrong, that the regular outreach that the city requires has not necessarily been as effective as DWP would like. And so it sounds like having the outreach for small business enterprises and disabled veteran business enterprises, requiring those forms of the city attorney's contracts, it would not be a problem for us. And it sounds like that is what we could do for the future for all RFPs at DWP, City Attorney's Office.
So is that something the city attorney is committing that it will do with respect to solicitations for DWP firms? I mean, this came up because, okay, great,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say it came up because at the same time that this contract was being presented, this firm had been disqualified from as non-responsive in connection with another contract that they were seeking here for failure to respond to our requirements in that area. And it just seems to me that, it's very inconsistent and frankly not aligned with our values as represented in our other contracting areas to have a separate process for law firms. So,
correct, and we will remedy that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve item 13.
Second, those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is passed. Item 15, Commissioner Reyes, Reliability Coordinator Services Agreement between the California Independent System Operator and LADWP.
So I just have a few clarifying questions about the exact role of that reliability coordinator, because it will be working across multiple balancing authorities or transmission operators. It's within a geographic region, right? So my question is, how will CAISO, California ISO, realize savings and efficiencies among all of those other entities? And what measures and mechanisms, because I'm thinking about our organization, what measures and mechanisms are in place to ensure that other participants are not leaning on neighbors like us to meet their continued reliability obligation? And then the third is, how will our greenhouse gas emissions across those different jurisdictions be properly accounted for?
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Simon Zodu, Director for Regulatory Compliance and Specifications for Power System.
My name is Glenn Berry. I'm the Manager of Energy Control Operations.
Yeah. Would like to make a very brief overview presentation regarding this service agreement with CAISO for reliability coordinator services. I think it would benefit to define what a reliability coordinator is. A reliability coordinator is a regional entity that's responsible for the reliable operation of the bulk electric system. Regional is a key word here, and the entity should have a very wide view of the region, should possess all the software and expertise needed in resources to manage multiple balancing authorities. Usually for us, it's a service that we provide because they do have real-time monitoring, and more importantly, this service is a mandatory requirement by NERC standards for all balancing authorities and transmission operators, which DWP is. So just to give you a background, there are three major interconnections in North America. With the Western Interconnection, which we are part of, the Eastern Interconnection, and the state of Texas has its own interconnection or grid. With that background, what you see here is the 2018 map of reliability coordinators in the United States. There are a total of 18 reliability coordinators at the time, covering Canada, United States, and parts of Mexico, 14 are located in the United States. You see on the map that Peak Reliability was the entity that was responsible for providing reliability coordinator services to the entire Western interconnection. But there were some developments that took place in 2018 when the California ISO announced in January of 2018 that they would like to withdraw from Peak Reliability. There were about 30% plus of the funding for Peak Reliability used to be derived from CalISO, and that created a domino effect in the West where the viability of Peak Reliability was being questioned in terms of funding and resources. And CalISO at the same time announced that they would like to provide reliability coordinator services not only for their own balancing authority but for all balancing authorities in the West. So moving from that point, in July of 2018, Peak Reliability made an announcement that they would be ceasing operations at the end of 2019. There was a flurry of activity in the West trying to make sure that we have a reliable interconnection, multiple meetings amongst various balancing authorities to find solutions. And the department at the time, in August of 2018, we came in front of this body, made a presentation, and our intent to join the CalISO's Reliability Coordinator Services. That was approved. So today we're back here to confirm on that commitment. We've been working with the California ISO over the past year on the tariffs and with regional balancing authorities as well. You would see on the map on the next slide the number of balancing authorities in the West that have already signed a letter of intent to join the California ISO's Reliability Coordinator Services. These services are separate from Energy Imbalance Market. They're separate from the California ISO's market. So we have made a smooth transition. I would like to, in terms of savings, your first question, the major savings for now in July of 2019, the California ISO has been certified and has started being the reliability coordinator provider for California balancing authorities. The rate that they're giving us at this point is the same rate as what we used to pay to Peak Reliability, but more in November of this year, next month, or a month and a half from now, more entities, balancing authorities will be joining CalISO. Due to economies of scale, we anticipate we'll have some savings as a result of more balancing authorities joining. The tariff is not up for an update until January or February of next year. And the savings, we have not realized the savings yet, but we anticipate and we're very hopeful that in the coming few months there will be some savings.
So the cost will be spread out, so to speak?
Correct. The cost is spread out based on what's referred to as the net energy for load, our consumption, our net generation, plus energy that's delivered to our balancing authority, minus power or energy that we have delivered to others. So there is a formula for that based on our net energy for load. That's how it's determined. In terms of balancing authorities leaning on each other, that's we do have a relationship with our adjacent balancing authorities, but the Reliability Coordinator Service does not have any impact on that unless the Reliability Coordinator is subjecting or directing balancing authorities to provide services to others. Glenn, if you want to add.
I would just add that to answer that second question is the reliability coordinators they're charged to make sure that all the balancing authority areas follow the NERC standards, and the NERC standards are in place to make sure that nobody's leaning on each other and everybody's doing the right thing. So that's just their charge, is to ensure that all the balancing areas are doing that.
Yeah.
And I think the third one is on the GHG obligations across different jurisdictions.
Greenhouse gas emissions and obligations are monitored by the California Air Resources Board. The Reliability Coordinator does not play any part in GHG emission monitoring.
Okay.
We have actually started receiving services from California ISO. In July of 2019, we are one of the first entities in the Western Interconnection to do so. So far, the services have been outstanding. We hear from staff, so we're here just to seek for execution of the service agreement and to be able to pay our dues starting from next year.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Is there a motion?
I move.
Second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you for explaining it so well.
We move to item 20, amendment number 1 to agreement number 47481 for 100% renewable energy study with Alliance for Sustainability Energy LLC, and we have 2 speaker cards on this item, I understand.
Jasmine Vargas, followed by Tony Wilkinson.
Hello, Honorable Commission. My name is Jasmine Vargas. I'm the Senior Organizer for Food and Water Action, and I'm here in front of you today as a member of the advisory group, the 100% Renewable Advisory Group that you're voting on expanding and increasing funding for. I want to give you a little idea of how it's been. So I've been at it for the 3 years that we've been, 2 years and since we've been meeting. And I'm actually one of the very few that was there from the beginning. So there's been a lot of people from different organizations that have been kind of taking up the mantle as people have been stepping down. But overall, I want to give you just an idea of my interpretation of how it's been going. So specifically, I want to focus on the fact that it is a very diverse group, and I appreciate that. It is following the resolution that had been proposed that this is supposed to be acknowledging. And I want to say that I support, and I think that we should be increasing and expanding this advisory group in this project, because this expansion is going to increase our ability to do public outreach, which is going to be incredibly important to communicate the very technical and advanced documentation and white papers that this group and this body has been creating. As someone that works in the community, I can tell you it's been really hard to go in and try and explain what this 100% process has been like. But I can also tell you that people are eager and hungry to understand and know how they can be part of the clean energy future that we're trying to create. So I want to just put myself out there as someone from the advisory group that wants to also participate in the public outreach process. We need to have public be able to give their input on what the recommendations come out of. If this 100% renewable energy study is supposed to inform the LA Clean Grid plan and the strategic long-term resource plan, then we have to make sure that everybody has a voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony Wilkinson with the Neighborhood Council DWP MOU Oversight Group, and a member of the 100% Renewable Study from the beginning. I want to make, personally, I really appreciate and support the City Council and our Mayor in trying to accelerate the speed of our progress toward as clean a renewable portfolio as we can reasonably achieve. That's the purpose of this study. And I think everybody on the team, if you will, does feel exactly the same way. I know what we've got is a whole bunch of different scenarios that they're about to kick off with a big computer modeling on different ways that we can get there. And I remember last week's meeting, I spent a significant amount of time saying, I'm not only concerned with renewable energy, I'm concerned with greenhouse gases, therefore electrifying transportation. And Tony was saying, I don't think these models are sufficiently aggressive in electrifying transportation. So I think that most of the people, as Dr. Pickler said in his comments, are in support of the goals. But one of the key things is you can't run all these models and give a good basis for both public discussion and the board unless we model what we were doing before the city council and the mayor asked us to do something different. That means that, in my opinion, the board approved integrated power plan, which includes a significant progress, but just not as fast as we're being asked to do. That's a base case. And I cannot imagine this progress going forward for a $14 million project that doesn't actually represent what we were doing before, exactly what we were doing before. They've got a sort of a straw man thing that says SB 100, and there are about 50 different ways you could do that, twist the dials. It's not a reference case. So I am asking that whether it's asked to come back, as the ratepayer advocate did, or whether or not you simply approve it with this specific request. But I want to see the base case, because that's the only way we're going to have an honest public discussion with all of us supporting doing as much as we can, but we need that honest base. Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Okay. Good afternoon. This is James Barner, Manager of Resource Planning and Development. We have a presentation for you just to give you an overview. This LA 100 study was requested by the City Council for us to determine which investments are necessary to get to 100% renewable. This effort, we've been partnering with NREL to conduct the study. We've been looking at prioritization of environmental justice neighborhoods as the first beneficiaries of the localized air quality improvements and greenhouse gas reduction. We created the advisory group to steer this project. Comprises 41 members from environmental groups, neighborhood councils, business and workforce groups, academia, city government, and utilities. We've currently conducted 8 of the 13 AG meetings. And with that, I'd like to have Ashkan Nasiri. He oversees the integrated resource implementation. And 2 of his groups are LA 100 that he manages, and then the energy storage and new technologies groups. So I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. Good afternoon, Commissioner. My name is Ashkan Nasiri, and I oversee the LA 100 study. We were supposed to come to the board on September 10th, and unfortunately, this is not the latest revision. So, James, if you can please go a couple more slides. One more. Okay. So, so this is a quick study, a quick history of event that unfolded in 2019, which caused the need for realigning this study. First, we had the strategic long-term resource plan, SLTRP, suspended. Then came the mayor's announcement on no repowering of the OTC units. And last in April, we had the plan which was announced, the Green New Deal, which has aggressive electrification targets. To keep the study relevant, we had to incorporate these changes into our study assumptions, which triggered this amendment. The scope change is really twofold. First is the change is in resources due to no repowering, suspension of SLTRP, and higher goals for local solar, which come from the Green Deal. The second half is the higher load due to electrification of school buses, LA Metro, LA DOT, and also considering residential and commercial building electrification. Those matches the goals of the Green New Deal, which escalate the load, the profile, and the timing of the future load. We are adding also 2 years to the length of this study, to the length of the contract, I'm sorry. Here's an overview of what we are asking in this amendment. Basically, we are adding 6 months to the length of this study. The final result will be available by September 2020, and the final report will be available by March 2021. We are asking for extension of $4 million to accomplish and update the assumptions, the underlying assumptions of the study when it comes to resources, and also include all the new loads based on the Green New Deal. With that,
Any
I will take any
questions?
question.
I have a couple. My questions really relate to Tony Wilkinson's presentation. How do you guys feel about the suggestion that Tony made with regard to the base case?
So I'll chime in on that real quick. This came up at the last AG meeting, it's last weekend, and so we have to regroup with the staff to talk about coming out with a base case. And I believe the Dr. Firpico is also, his RP office also asking for a base case. So what we'll do is, because this is a public advisory group meeting and also a process, we would like to have an open dialogue with everybody. So we'll probably host a WebEx with all the AG members. And before we do that, we got to come up with all the right questions to ask from all the AG group regarding this particular matter. And then we'll go through that process and see how the AG group would like to proceed with that change.
If you do conclude that you want to do that, how would that impact this proposed budget?
As you can see, we don't know the exact impact will be. In fact, we did invite Mr. Scott Hasse, and he's from NREL, but we will talk to them about that change. But we do have contingency in this amendment. As you can see, it's $764,737. That contingency is exactly what this is designed for the unanticipated or the upcoming changes, potential changes, more scenarios that may come up during the process, or even after study comes up, if there's any other studies that the AG group may want to participate in, or we may want to participate in. That's what that contingency is for.
When will these discussions occur, and how soon could you come back and let us know whether the discussions yield a decision to move in that direction?
So our next AG meeting is in December, so we'll definitely come way before that to have a decision on whether or not we'll come up with a base case. So I don't have a time frame right now, but perhaps definitely before the next AG meeting in December, because the next AG meeting, the NREL is going to propose some of the preliminary results of the study, so we definitely want to come up with that decision before then. And we can come back to the board once we have a decision from the advisory group.
Yeah, I just.
I'm sorry,
oh, I'm
Commissioner
sorry.
Brown.
Perhaps I can inform the process a little bit more.
Yes.
That would be helpful.
First, a little bit of philosophy that hasn't been written and Tony didn't cover. All of North America is 5% of the world population. And no matter what we do in North America, it's not going to materially affect the rest of the world in terms of overall greenhouse impact, unless we're able to convince the rest of the world that we can do this economically. And if we can do this economically, then we have a chance to have leadership. To do that, we have to convince people that this is likely to be more economical or otherwise more advantageous than the traditional path. The original base case that was put out for review and discussion last November, and we said was good, was an adequate measuring point to what I call a traditional path to for utility planning going forward. NREL has in fact spent some time thinking about that base case in that context, but we had a change of direction by the city wanting to move faster on the Green New Deal. It's appropriately to include that, but I think as a measuring stick, we need to have available the original base case because you can't measure how you're doing. Based on our work on the once-through cooling, we think it's unlikely that that base case will look attractive relative to other alternatives, but this is an environment in which you can run the numbers and look at greenhouse gas impacts, and look at costs. And adding a base case as a measuring stick is not the same as considering executing a course of action.
If one were to add a base case, how would that change this budget that we have in front of us?
I believe it can be incorporated into the existing scope. So,
Well, what would be the reason not to add a base case?
So depending on what, that's what we need to sit down on exactly what that base case is. If Dr. Pickles mentioned the November base case, that's already been done as far as it's been considered before but not studied. So if we're going to add that base case back, if everybody agrees on that's the base case, then we'll proceed with what the financial impact will be.
So what are the alternative base cases? If it's not November, what would it be?
That will be up to I believe it'll be AG Group's decision as far as what else could it be. It could be other sensitivities. It could be more of different type of renewable resources. It could be less. It could be more energy storage. Whatever those sensitivities are and scenarios, we'll have to determine that.
What was at the AG meeting, which was broadly considered as an SB 350 or 100 compliant base case, but that's not really well defined, and that's would be more California thinking about its own compliance questions rather than the broader question of how do we compare against a traditional base case.
Yeah, I would just say that I could not agree with Dr. Pickle and his rationale for the inclusion of the base case and specifically the November base case more strongly. One of the significant pushbacks that we get or that we will confront as we walk this path is it reasonable? Is it rational? Is it is it cost effective? Did you arrive at this conclusion in a methodical manner, free of sort of political manipulation, just to be blunt? And this department has put a tremendous amount of work prior to our decision to accelerate our efforts along these lines. That work is valid and needs to be part of what's considered as we move forward. I also believe that we will arrive at an ultimate outcome that respects and achieves our goals, but how we do that, how transparent it looks, and how and the degree to which we are willing to hold our goals up to scrutiny against what people might view as a more traditional or a safer or more reliable approach. I mean, I think that will be critical to our ability to not only do this, but to inspire others to follow in our wake. I don't know how or what process you believe we need to go through to get to that place, but that's the place that, in order to do this in a way that survives scrutiny, criticism, and positions us to lead is the place that I think we have to get. And I would not be willing to vote for this amendment without knowing that this work is going to be done in a way that achieves, that objective.
And based on the comments we received from the advisory group and also based on the comments from Dr. Pickle, we are looking into getting that process moving. But in order for us to, because the November base case has already been contemplated and also started by NREL for this particular study, we will move forward with looking at that. But as far as amendment goes, it contemplates a lot more than just the the Green New Deal or the SB 100. Like Dr. Pickle said, SB 100 from 60% to 100%, the state's going to have to figure out what that includes. And NREL has their own interpretation of that already as far as what needs to be done for their study because of timing reasons. We would like to continue the study with NREL, and we will definitely look at the base case, and we will report back to the board should the board consider approve this amendment that the contingency dollars is already included in this. And we'll report back to the board immediately should there be any additional dollars that's needed. But I believe this is going to cover that as far as what the base case, because that's already started. And I would like to ask Scott to come up and talk a little bit about that, how much the base case already been done, and as far as and how much work can be done as far as what that base case can continue.
Hi, is this on?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Scott Hasse from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. So we had been looking at this for a long time, and then this events of the past spring, we kind of took that out. So we do have the basic models where things can be put back in readily in an efficient manner. So I don't think it's going to be a huge cost impact. Certainly that contingent that's in there is more than enough. And so we're very willing to do, as the advisory group advises, to put those back in and discuss it. So it won't be a huge cost impact. Though I do think proceeding with the study as we're going is important to keep on the schedule and addressing all of the other things that are in there as well, because all of our models are tied together. So as you begin to look at electrification of buildings, of the transportation fleet, delay in doing that does have some significant potential schedule impacts to the tail end. So putting a base case back in, not a huge lift, we can do that.
And with the added electrification of transportation and building stock electrification, that would certainly give us a better outlook on whether or not our system can handle this. And that's what one of the tasks is look at our distribution grid. They're completely modeling our grid. For example, they have already found out they have 680,000 building stocks in this City of Los Angeles already modeled. And it doesn't sound like much, but that's each property. It's all been modeled already for electrification.
So I have a question.
So the benefits there.
What you've said several times is that we'll reach out to the advisory group and, based on what they say, we'll make a decision, et cetera, et cetera. I'm curious as to the degree to which we influence the outcome of that statement, of that decision, because I'm not terribly interested in having a report back that says the advisory group doesn't want X base case, so we're not doing that.
And the board can definitely make that decision today to make that. We just want to inform the advisory group this is going forward, because last week there was discussed, but there were no conclusions made. So there were a lot of advices given during the advisory group meeting.
I'll bet.
And that I didn't see any issues with the advisory group going back to the base case. However, we just want to make sure that they heard this one more time. If the board directs us to do the base case, we will proceed.
I think there's a clear consensus on the board that we would like to see a base case.
Okay.
Right.
But having said that, I don't think we want to be Mr. Bigfoot if it's going to end up ruffling a lot of feathers. Do you have a recommendation as to how you think we should proceed and end up with getting a base case, but perhaps without being overly aggressive?
Thank you for the consideration. So I would like to just at least inform the advisory group for a WebEx meeting as soon as we can, that we're proceeding with the base case, and we'll take the comments back, and we'll write a report back to the board. This is what we're proceeding with. We don't have to wait until the next board meeting. We can proceed with a report, and then we'll report back publicly at the next meeting.
At the next board meeting?
Yes.
Oh, so in the event that there's pushback from the advisory group at that point, we would retain the right to be a little more aggressive then. But I'm comfortable with your procedural recommendation. I don't know how my colleagues feel about it.
I just have a clarifying thing, is that on all those modeling? Do we consider the climate change impacts when you're talking about the costs? And at the same time, I just want to emphasize again with the AG group, the participation and engagement of the environmental justice groups is very important. I haven't really heard that they have been as engaged in the process. I would really love to lift their voices in this specific study, because it's important that as we do the modeling in the disadvantaged communities, we pretty much have that feedback from the groups who are already there and working with those communities. So I just want to have an assurance that with this amendment that the voices of the EJ groups in the AG group are heard and lifted and considered as part of whatever future modelings that you're going to be looking at, and also to take into consideration climate change, because climate change is coming up. We cannot do all these scenarios, modeling and all that without really considering what the climate will look like years from now and what those impacts are going to be.
So I'd like to speak to that. So the last AG meeting, we did have a presentation given by Jacqueline Cochran that discussed their methodology for adding climate change into the modeling, so increasing the load. And I seem to recall it was well received. We also discussed after the last AG meeting. We usually have a follow-up meeting just to sort of go over some of the things that we learned. And we did decide to hold a webinar for the environmental justice community, specifically targeted. We'd invite everybody, but we'd really reach out to the environmental justice groups that it was identified at that AG meeting that they have a difficult time attending a lot of these meetings. So we're going to specifically reach out to them and have a specific webinar just for them. And that'll be in the next probably month or so, I would say.
Dr. Pickle?
We had a base case defined and agreed to in 18, discussed both in summer and I think agreed to in an AG meeting in December, if my memory serves me correctly. So we have what would be called a more traditional base case all set up. As the representative from the National Renewable Energy Lab has to say, that's already been weighed in their development of the modeling effort. So it's really just putting something back in that was excluded as not being what's the word, compliant under existing law. But it really, since we're discussing laws that might change over a 25-year period, or now 27-year period of the study, looking backward, that takes us back to the end of the first Bush administration and the arrival of Bill Clinton. So if we're looking forward that far, we can look back and say, gee, how much has the law changed since then? And so current compliance shouldn't be setting what we consider to be an appropriate base case.
I think
Can
that
I go?
Commissioner Barad?
Thank you.
But
I have a few questions. When you say increase the term by 2 years, you don't mean the term of the people that are on the committee. I think that's a little confusing. You mean increase the meetings of the advisory group. Is that correct?
It's just 2 years addition to the 3 years we have for the contract. So we have contingency money just in case we have to do further studies or sensitivities. We have time and money on the contract to do that.
So it's the term of the contract?
Right.
Okay. How many people are on the advisory group?
So we have alternate and primary from 7 different categories. Altogether, we have about 68.
68?
Right, but not all shows up at the same time. So on average, we are getting about 35 to 48 attendees.
All right.
at our AG meeting.
One of my concerns is that the neighborhood councils are not getting any feedback from what this group is doing. They're not asked for input, and they're not hearing what the group is doing. And when I looked at the list of who's on the advisory group, there really are very few neighborhood council people on there. And I think that's a mistake because, you know, we're really missing a lot of community leaders that way. And I wonder if we could look through that membership again and the composition of it.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Yeah, this has come up. Yeah,
you may recall it was probably a year and a half ago. We actually extended an invitation to all neighborhood councils to participate. The neighborhood councils, though, are also formally represented through the MOU committee with Jack Humperville and Tony Wilkinson, who are members and who have attended very regularly. I know Jack was at the last meeting, I believe. Don't recall if Tony, I think Tony was as well. So we've also taken out periodic presentations to neighborhood councils. It has been about 9 months or so since we last went out and provided an update on our overall power supply transformation, as well as the 100% renewable study. So we can look to do another round of those if you'd like, including at the Valley Alliance and the other alliances.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
that would be a good idea. Okay, then there's, in the cost, you have AG management, $146,000. What kind of management is that? You mean somebody's managing the group, the advisory group?
So these are the costs related to have additional AG meetings. These are for preparation of the documents and the presentations. That's basically start 2 months before each AG meetings.
And out of these changes, the costs are as needed basis. So for
What?
example, the publication and public outreach, if we have additional public outreach, for example, to the alliances and so forth, this will come out of that cost because this is an NREL study, a third-party study. We would like them to be present to present their study.
All right. Now the motion here is to increase by $4 million to 14 million, over 14 million, which seems like a lot of money. How do you justify today the $14 million?
We're looking at capital expenditures of over $70 billion over the time period of this. And if you compare this to managing a mutual fund at a half percent, this is the planning for a capital spending over a 25-year period. That's a small percentage. In fact, this percentage, if I can do arithmetic in my head, is a smaller percentage than you pay Vanguard. So this is important to planning your capital program. This is an elaborate study, among the most elaborate done, maybe still the most elaborate, at a turning point in the industry. So it's a very important study. It's important to do it right. Part of the reason we were pitching for keeping this base case in is we think this is likely to be a very important study in convincing others of appropriate action as well.
What was it originally budgeted for?
It was 10 million, just over
10 million?
Yes,
Okay, so that's why you're adding the 4.
that's correct. Right.
Okay. Also, you're asking to have 15 public outreach meetings. How are you describing that? What do you think that's going to?
That is an estimate based on the additional public outreach. There was already budgeted for in the original 10 million. There is some public outreach means additional as needed basis. So after the studies is done, we'll work with Joe Romelos' team on communications on go out to the public, and these are all public outreaches.
Okay, so you're going out to the public.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, I think those were all my questions. Okay. Is Joe still here? Yeah. Okay, so I look forward to you coming to Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils with your outreach. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I just have one clarification as well, because we've been at this for more than a year now, right? So has there ever been like an assessment of what's working, what's not working? So at least you can kind of adjust it if, have we surveyed the AG as to, any feedback from them? Do they feel comfortable? Are the scenarios working for them? Stuff like that, because they're the ones who will be relaying the information back to the communities and the organizations they work with. And I would love to see that it is translatable and transformative information that goes out there.
So I'll give one comment. This is just an observation. When I went up and talked in front of AG group, the first question asked is, how many of you have been here since the first meeting? More than half of the AG member raised their hand. How many people are first time? And it's only one person that was the first time. Essentially, she replaced another gentleman. So what we can do is, and Joe, we can do this through our communications, that we can go out to a survey, anonymous survey, and get some feedback from AG members.
I welcome that.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I may add, we did conduct a survey in 2018. Okay. So we called individual AG members, and we got their input, and we tried to incorporate those into our conducting of the meetings, and also the path that the study is taking.
Getting their input is important, but also getting their buy-in is more important.
Understanding that we'll hear back from Lewis by the next board meeting or at the next board meeting on the base case issue. Are people comfortable voting on this motion at this point?
Yeah, I think what I heard Louis say was that he would be reaching out to the AG members and advising them of the direction that we're headed, and getting back to us in advance of the next board meeting with a formal report back at the meeting. So I'm very comfortable with that, and I would just like to underscore, I have appreciated the comments by other commissioners, particularly with respect to outreach and buy-in and support for the AG group. However, I also just want to put a stake in the ground around my confidence in the leadership of this department as it relates to the technical and the scientific and other expertise that's necessary to pull this off. And I think on both scores, what you're hearing today is our interest in you being very proactive in exercising your leadership in both making sure that the study is, that the work product is as strong as it can be and reflects the best sort of protocols that are possible. And I think, Dr. Pickle, thank you for raising that issue, and also putting a stake in the ground around leading this process in terms of public communication, collaboration, and really making this something that that we're not only proud of, but that we can put forward as a public model for others to emulate.
Is there a motion?
I move passage.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. It's passed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We move to the FIT program, item number 22. We have two public speakers on item 22.
We actually have three now. Mike Kutchek, followed by Aaron Taxi.
We can't. Suzanne just left.
That's true. Oh, wait, I was just going to get coffee.
Good afternoon, Aaron Taxi with the Building Owners and Managers Association, Greater Los Angeles. I just wanted to come up here very briefly to thank the department and the board for all their work on this, and publicly support the expansion of the FIT program, and also just commend our partners in the LA Business Council and others for their tremendous leadership and advocacy on behalf of this. This is a program that embodies the best of partnership with the private sector, and we look forward to working with you in the months ahead to also expand incentives for battery storage in buildings and more broadly expanding solar energy storage infrastructure. So thank you to you commissioners and to the department staff.
Thank you.
Paul Jennings.
Good morning. Paul Jennings with Public Communication Services. We are LA-based energy provider and happen to be one of the more active participants in the FIT program and also in the EV program. There's a reason I'm going to mention that. So I want to just share, at least since we're on the ground, share our perspective to why we do what we do, whether or not long-term it'll be consistent to what makes economic sense. Time will tell. But I'll start with saying that everything we touch out there as a company, we have today probably $25 million invested here in LA, basically on DWP, that there is a logical private to public partnership role, which has been proven out. But in particular, if you look at what our business, we believe the business is paying 14.5 cents for a kilowatt hour sounds expensive, and yet, based on our experience and background being in a deregulated business before, we already can see that it's fairly inexpensive. Why is it inexpensive? Because we're going to be able to build out all these sites to something much more than a solar site. So when we go out and get a FIT program, it takes us about 4 years to actually start to finish. A lot of brain damage. We typically will spend $1 million or thereabout to connect to the grid, which becomes part of long-term grid infrastructure, so we can connect. And there's only a very finite number of locations that when you look at all the criteria you have to meet in order to do a FIT, including locking up the piece of land for 20 years, we get into this very condensed environment. So our simple belief is that we wouldn't go through all this effort and time and money if we didn't believe these sites eventually become places to manage demand response, batteries, increase the productivity per square foot, on and on. So we view it, the FIT program, as very much a strategic program that is the starting point for this much more robust notion of microgrid. Thank you.
Thank you.
That completes public speaking.
Okay, we will look forward to your presentation.
Okay, Commissioners, Jason Rondu, Director of Clean Grid LA Strategy Division. We came to you in July and gave you a history of the feed-in tariff program, how that fits into our overall solar and renewable portfolio standard, and talked about some of the successes and challenges that the existing program has had, and a proposal for a new expansion of that consistent with our strategic long-term plan, and kind of touched on what we'd like to do next year in terms of modernizing and creating a little bit more innovation around our local solar portfolio. And so we're not going to go through that entire presentation again, but we just have about 2 slides that I think recap some of the changes that we're proposing. So I'm going to ask Arash to go ahead and just really quickly go through that.
Okay. Good afternoon. So this slide may look familiar. So on July 23rd, we basically went over the slide, which basically covered the top portion, which is what the board had approved in 2013, which is 150 megawatts. At the same time, the City Council also authorized a 150 megawatt runway. Now, what we've come to our board is essentially to figure out the path forward for the feed-in tariff, and that would be to obtain an authorization for 50 megawatts for the first year. And at the same time, through an ordinance, we would go to City Council for a runway of 300 megawatts. The game plan here was essentially to start off with 50 megawatts, reassess where we're at the second year, and then determine whether the rates need to be adjusted and so on and so forth. That's really how we'd want to stagger this program going forward. Now, these changes consist of adding more capacity to the program, as mentioned, increasing the project sizes, so from a 3 megawatt cap originally to now a 10 megawatt cap. And we see, some improvements there on the processing of applications, and also reducing some of the soft costs associated with these projects. Additionally, reducing the price cap originally set at 30 cents per kilowatt hour. That'll be going down to 25 cents. And we can get into more details on that as well. As far as the program, we're going to update some of the guidelines, allocate certain capacity to the Owens Valley to assist those governmental entities out in that region that could definitely partake in the FIT program and benefit local community members. And lastly, the pricing. As we know, solar prices have declined over the past few years, so this is an opportunity to benefit from larger scale projects and also see a reduction in the price of energy we pay for these projects. So the big question for us is, how do we innovate this program? How do we go into the next steps that line up with the Clean Grid LA plan? So what we're doing right now behind the scenes is developing an understanding of where our locational needs are at the distribution level, and then correlating that with projects that actually basically present an opportunity to prevent impact us in a non-wire solution method. And that's really the long-term plan. And how we do that is something we're discussing right now. We will eventually come back to the board in Q1 of 2020 to discuss the details of that, how we'd like to roll that out, and how eventually it would impact the grid in the near term and in the long term. So with that said, if you have any questions, we're here to answer those for you today.
Any questions?
I'd like to ask Dr. Pickle some questions. I want to thank you for your recommendations that you put together. It was very helpful, and I think that you have some valid concerns that you highlighted. Some of my questions are when you talk about what staff is talking about is having many jobs, creating many jobs. So what evidence do we have that we have created jobs, and where are they coming from?
I think that's a question to staff, because Dr. Pickle says there aren't any. So
yeah,
I think it might be useful. I mean, I assume you've read the OPA's report, and to call it blistering is an understatement. I'm inclined to agree with his report unless I hear something to the contrary that addresses the points that he's made.
Yeah, so I'll start with jobs. And last presentation that we made, there was a number of concerns that Ratepayer Advocate brought up that we think there's a lot of merit in discussing them in an open forum, and we've done that in the past, and we've done it through the development of the FIT program, but there's a few new arguments that I think also merit discussion. And at that time, we offered to respond to a lot of those concerns to the board. And I don't know if the memo that we had written has gotten to you, but if it has not, I can verbally kind of walk through some of that, and you'll see that in writing if you don't have it in your packets. On the first piece on jobs, there's part of the merits of doing this program is local solar means local jobs. There's local indirect benefits of that. Early in the stages of the development of the feed-in tariff program, UCLA Luskin did a study that had a number of jobs that were projected to be a result of the program. And I think following up on that, they also looked at what are some of those results. We have not done that in-house internally. That's not really our core competency. However, we do intend to look at the job impacts of the feed-in tariff program and other programs that are going to be part of our Clean Grid Future as part of our Clean Grid LA effort as well. That contract that we have is not in place, but we intend to do that. I don't know if we've got any of those figures for past job numbers available to us at this point.
Come back to, yeah, we'd have to come back to the board. We can provide that information based off the historical data.
And I think in our memo we kind of touch on some of those studies that have previously been done in that regard as well. So previously it's been done by UCLA. We intend to do it again as part of the evaluation of our transition to a clean energy future. So more to come in that area.
Yeah, on that point just alone, I have to tell you that as we continue to move forward and we talk about the impact of the work that we're doing, particularly on the local economy and especially as it relates to jobs, it's, you know, I'm very sensitive to not kind of waving that flag as just sort of one of the things we toss out without there being some real demonstrable connection between what's occurring and people in this community working. That is, you know, that's a pretty, it's almost a solemn promise that you're making, and you don't want to make it lightly, and we have to be able to back it up or just don't go there. And I'm also, you know, seriously concerned about some of the other points that the ratepayer advocate makes as it relates to cost and you know, and the utility of continuing in this direction without you know, some better either refinement or some of the work that you both have indicated will be done, being done. So I would again urge you to very specifically address those issues in some way that responds to what is in front of us. Or again, for me, it will be very difficult to cast an affirmative vote.
Yeah. So to recap the cost concern, and if I don't editorialize your concerns accurately, please supplement that. But
I will.
Thank you. And just as a sidebar, we've spent a significant amount of time with the Ratepayer Advocate's Office, and we do appreciate the investment of time in that, and not just evaluating this, but for a future iteration of that. So we do appreciate that. So we're offering, or we're proposing to offer between 13.5 and 14.5 cents as part of this program. And the concern around price is twofold from what we understand. And one concern of that is it's not competitively bid, right? And I'll talk about how we've done that in the past and some of the challenges and some of the benefits of that. The other piece is it's a fraction, or it's many multiples of what you get for utility scale solar. So, large scale desert solar. When we first launched this program, it was actually a lot more comparable. It was closer in cost, but large scale solar has come down so dramatically, whereas local solar has come down maybe a little bit, but not the same ways, because there's a lot of sort of indirect costs, there's a lot of soft costs with local solar, and there's some complexities. I think you heard from some of the speakers that it takes time to develop these. You need to get a building owner to agree to it. Every study that we've done that talks about a very high renewable future has shown that there's going to be a significant investment, not just on utility scale renewables, but also locally. There are transmission constraints that we may not have today, but as we get towards 50%, 75%, and so on, we will have to upgrade transmission, potentially build new transmission, and that is a very, very lengthy and expensive process, and sometimes very unpredictable process where we may spend several years or a decade plus and may not be able to get the certain path that we want, the certain capacity that we want. So again, every study that we've done has shown that there's going to be a big investment locally and also on the utility scale. And so that question then becomes, do we make that investment today, or do we wait until we build out all of our capacity on the utility scale and then say, okay, we've tapped that out, we can't build more transmission, or it's not feasible to do it in the near term. Now let's start on the local stuff. And we think that given the ability for us to take advantage of the investment tax credit, the 30% investment tax credit, and the reality that doing local projects and local programs takes a significant amount of time to invest in. Again, we can't just say, all right, we're going to sign a contract for 300 to 400 megawatts of local solar and have it done within 2 years. This takes time. Our net metering program has been open, I think, maybe since 1999 in some form, and that really didn't take off until I think 2008, 2009. And same thing with feed-in tariff. When we launched the program, it was really slow, and now it's starting to get some momentum. So the reality is that we have this question of, do we do this now? Do we continue this now? Or do we wait until we tap out all of our large-scale resources? And we think for a variety of reasons that we should do this now. We should keep the momentum going up now. There's also the benefit of having it close to load centers, avoiding transmission and distribution, like I mentioned as well. And then the future potential for pairing battery storage with solar and having potential resiliency benefits of, in the future. Again, those are a little bit tougher to quantify now, especially since it's very early in the stage. There's also potential risks and costs around storage. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like. We know that costs are going to come down significantly, beyond 5 years. In the next couple of years, it may be a little bit more difficult. But all that to say, the large-scale costs absolutely are lower, but we cannot get to our clean energy future by only doing large scale. We're going to have to do it locally. We're going to have to do some locally. The amount is to be determined, and the timing is really up to us as a policy decision. When do we do that?
Be competitively bid because?
Yeah, so that's the second piece of it. It absolutely can be competitively bid, and we've done it competitively bid. Back in 2012, we did a 10 megawatt demonstration competitive bid where we got prices all over the map. And then we had a set price program to send a signal to the industry that we want to develop this, we want to ramp this up. So we started at a high price, 17 cents, and we brought that all the way down to, at the time, 13, but it kind of ramped back up to about 14.5 because of very low participation. So we did 2 tracks. We also did a 50 megawatt competitively bid piece as well, where we got pretty good pricing proposals. We got 13.5 cents and we got 11.7 cents. The 13.5 cent projects are all built, except for a couple of megawatts, which were due to some development challenges. The 11.7 cents, still we're waiting on a number of those megawatts. We've had to negotiate potentially increased penalties associated with that, and we've had to negotiate extensions associated with that. And all of those projects, all of those competitive bid projects are very large scale sites. One is a 50 megawatt roof near the port. It's a warehouse, great roof, fantastic project. One of the most, I think it's the largest, if not one of the largest local solar projects in all the country. The other is the U.S. Postal Service headquarters, which is a 10 megawatt project down in South LA. And so the reality is that there's finite roofs that are of that quality and of that scale, and the development challenges are real. So we can competitively bid, and we've done that in 2 areas, and we believe that the pricing that we're proposing today is within that range of those competitively bid pieces. The other element of this is competitive bidding with customer-facing programs adds a significant level of complexity. And as the ratepayer advocate has pointed out, business models around local solar can be challenging. And there are some challenges with this. There are some transaction costs with it, and that adds some complexity. So we're not opposed to doing competitive bidding, and we've done it in the past. It just adds a very, very serious level of complexity. We're also open to do it in the future as well. But given the way the program has had success today, that success has been around that set price that we've toggled in the past. We've gone down over time, we've dialed it up a little bit, and we're dialing it a little bit down again. So we've kind of followed what we hope to be close to the market price, and based on what we've learned, we think we're close.
I just want to get back to my question about the jobs.
Yep.
Where do you see evidence that we're creating jobs? Is it in the local communities? How do you see that? And you said that, are you doing a study on that so we can have? So there have been, to my recollection, there have been 2 studies. One that forecasted the jobs, and again, these are done by UCLA Luskin. And then I think there was one done a few years ago that it was a look back on what these were like. We also, again, as part of the Clean Grid LA effort,
not just this program, but all of what we're trying to do to achieve 100% renewables, as well as a 100% renewable study, we'll be looking at jobs including this program.
I also want to add that the mayor's office has looked at the FIT program as a model, and now it's the time to scale it up. And with regards to jobs, there are calculations or computations as well that the mayor's office has done in terms of job creation. And I don't know if it's specifically for the FIT program, but it's mostly like more for the renewable energy sector as to how many jobs have been created. My impression is that local solar, of course, for me is very important because it helps really with our renewable push, and that the current participants in the FIT program include commercial, industrial, and residential buildings. But not only that, they are in neighborhoods in Boyle Heights, Sun Valley, in downtown LA, disadvantaged communities where they are now given the opportunity to have affordable solar energy to our power grid, while generating some type of an income as well for the building owners. I know about the UCLA study from the Luskin School of Innovation about the economic impacts of the FIT program. So I think you could refer back to that. It was done by J.R. Sasho. And it also shows in that study that I've read before that there are thousands of underutilized roofs here in the city that could benefit from having local solar via the FIT program. And the thing that I think we should be thinking about is thinking about this as more of a big picture kind of stuff, like where are we going? As you said, are we going to finish with all the big projects first, or are we hitting the local side as well? And in that way, being very conscious and thoughtful as to how we're going to be approaching it using a program such as FIT. And I think the success is it's oversubscribed, right? Is that my understanding on the first part?
Yeah, it's almost fully subscribed, I think.
Almost fully subscribed.
So 1 out of 150 megawatts, I think, is either
so people are benefiting from it in essence. So now that we're going for the next tranche of megawatts, which is the 300, I think using that model and really lowering the pricing will at least add to our push for that renewable energy for the city, and also really making use of drawing that investment to neighborhoods that are underserved. I mean, that's, for me personally, is what I would like to see the FIT program accomplish.
Ratepayer advocate, I'll refrain from mine until we hear from you.
To address the jobs question, there's been a 70-year standard through HUD for evaluating jobs, and it's full-time jobs. And we haven't seen any numbers on that. One thing that would help in the process is having a contractual right under these FIT projects to see payroll, so we can establish actual dollar amounts in that process, and we can actually say, okay, what was your payroll? And we can count jobs that way. But back to the general question, often people confuse local solar FIT and feed-in tariff. Local solar encompasses everything. The big success in terms of total number of megawatts or megawatt hours is what people put on their businesses and use to back down their retail bill, and it's called net metering. And because our rates have been going up and the cost of solar installations have been going down on rooftops as well as for the wholesale utility business, that started growing, and even our small commercial energy rates are now at a level where it makes it attractive to put on solar. How attractive is it to put on solar? In the last couple weeks, Tesla has announced a new commercial rooftop program where for 240 kilowatt installation, which is halfway through the first tier in terms of size for the DWP 14.5 cent range, they are saying you can do that for 9.9 cents. That makes net metering for facilities that have enough load in the building where they can back down their meter more attractive. So the golden part of this is, in terms of achieving our environmental goals, is net metering, and DWP has done, as I note on the second page of my report, DWP has made great efforts in improving the interface for those programs. For feed-in tariff, feed-in tariff is not backing down retail bill, it's buying power at wholesale. And wholesale utility scale is 2.5 cents. What might we be able to do wholesale for localized regional benefit? Well, Tesla's doing this for 10 cents. That doesn't include the cost of the real estate. The facilities that are attractive for the feed-in tariff are facilities that have a lot of rooftop but don't have anybody inside, that has a significant power load to back down. Or they're commercial leases where the tenant is paying their bill and they don't have the ability to add something to the roof. So their current lease problems, Commissioner Noonan could have commented very effectively on that. So feed-in tariffs is only a selected number of buildings. And if you have a building that has a tenant that doesn't have much electric load, do you want to tie that up for 20 years? It's a very selective set of instances where you have somebody who really thinks they're going to let the building sit for 20 years, or sit with clients who don't have high-intensity operations for 20 years. So that's a part of the problem why it's difficult to build this. Second one, as Jason's noted, is this process needs to be built. 14.5 cents doesn't sound like much, but 300 megawatts of 14.5 cents over a 20-year period is 1.5 billion. And that's a big procurement. So what's our recommendation? Our recommendation in short is we would like this program to not go ahead with the first tier, and we'd ask them to come back with an improved program. This feed-in tariff program is now 7 years old. It's time to rethink. If the board still wants to go ahead, we'd like to reduce the authorized amount to 25 to 35 megawatts and reduce the prices to something less than 14.5 cents at the top tier, and closer to what we see people are able to do for net metering, and report back on the improved program within 6 months. That's our alternative proposal.
I think that Fred makes important points, and they're sobering with regard to the numbers that he's talking about. Having said that, I also think this has been an extraordinarily important path-breaking program for Los Angeles. It was the first program that really caught fire here. It's made extraordinary gains in terms of solar. It's well known. It's very popular in the community. It has and continues to make a real difference. I think the message that we would send by either rejecting this or slashing it is frankly, a very bad political message. And I think there are political considerations that need to be considered when we're trying to be as encouraging as we possibly can with regard to renewables, and particularly solar. I think that the staff's recommendation is reasonable. I think it's measured. I agree that we should be doing more net metering. I think the approval of ELAND puts us in the direction of, down the road, having much less expensive solar on a much larger scale. But I think that to reject this program, which has been so significant and which the staff has outlined in terms of its value, I think, extremely well in the course of this presentation, would just send the wrong message in this community. So even though I'm sympathetic to a lot of what Fred says, I just think it's not a message that we should want to send, particularly given all of the important points that Commissioner Reyes makes with regard to the environmental justice elements of it, with regard to the availability of it throughout the community, the equity components. This isn't the time, I think, when we want to be cutting back. Ordinarily, in fact, this is about the only time I can think of in 6 years that I have concluded for myself that the political message is so dominant. I always take a look at the economics, et cetera. In this instance, I think politically it would be, I think not approving this would just send all the wrong messages about what we stand for.
That's part of the reason we put forward the alternative proposal at the end of the memo, because that allows the feed-in tariff to proceed at about the pace it was expecting to over the next 6 months while they look at refining and improving the program.
I think the alternative is also somewhat stark. So that's where I am.
May I offer a couple thoughts?
Yes.
So first of all, I mean, these are all the points everybody raises are valid. And this will not be the only program we have for solar in the city. And certainly, as was mentioned, there's a very limited number of rooftops that this would work on. But it has been an important program for us. It's the only mid-sized solar that we have. Everything is either small, privately owned, which we get no credit for as far as renewable credits go, or it's utility scale, or it's feed-in tariff. We are certainly going to be looking at more projects that we personally can get involved in from water and power standpoint as utility-owned solar that we would install ourselves, looking at reservoirs and other possibilities for what we could do at the same kind of scale. But the program is working, and it's taken a while for the vendors to get organized to understand how to work this. We've seen folks come in several times to talk about the value of the program. They finally have their feet squarely on the ground, how to move these projects forward, how to get through the process, how to work with the property owners, and to be successful. I think in terms of the jobs, Commissioner Barad brings up a good point. What we can do immediately, and Jason and Aresh can call, there's only a certain number of vendors. We heard Jeremy Johnson here, who's talking about hiring vets and other people. Jonathan Port's been here, a lot of folks have been here. We can call this vendor community because we know who they are, and we can find out exactly how many jobs they put in place and how long these people have been working. So we can give you actual numbers, and we can do that right now. And then we'll continue to work on the optics. No matter who studies what, we'll give you real numbers on the jobs. And that's something we can do. But we've heard from time and time again that people are hiring local folks, they're hiring vets, and they're providing good quality construction jobs in this area. Regarding the low bid, I think it's an important point about how do we get low bid projects. I think we've looked at this and kind of reverse engineered it. We've basically set that price to where we say if you can build it for this price, then we'll accept your project. So we kind of put the low bid there, and we've had to find that sweet spot to where people find projects that will financially be viable. And so we've kind of set our low bid in that sense, so that we're not, as Jason mentioned, the one project that came in truly low bid hasn't delivered. And so we set a price that we believe meets the needs of the vendor community who can build projects at that price and make them work both for them and for us. So I do believe it. To me, it's important. It's important to move this forward. We've created this kind of industry locally and vendors who do this. And they're now starting to move more projects ahead. We see more larger roof installations and from all over the parts of the city having their first installations. So I think it's incumbent on us to continue the momentum. I'm concerned about saying, well, we like the program, and y'all just got going, y'all just started hiring people, getting your act together, and now we're not going to do it anymore. It seems, I agree, to send the very wrong message. If the program, the worst case is the program is hugely successful and we sell it out. And then we're done. But I'm sure during the course of this, we'll have plenty of time to bring back reports on how well we're doing, how many projects are pursuing. Nobody springs a project on us out of the blue. We know they're coming, they're talking to us ahead of time, we know where they're located. If we think there's a need to change the program, if it's too rich, if it's not working, we can always bring it back to the board. The board can always change direction. But I think at this point, we've created a number of people who do this as their living, and they've hired people locally who it's their livelihood. And we need to do our best to try to keep the program moving forward. Otherwise, we will never get the local solar built that we need to.
I would just say I appreciate the discussion, and certainly Commissioner Reyes's comments resonate, as do the comments of the general manager. I think the staff has done a fine job in the context of this presentation, so it's been useful. I, based on that, was more inclined to support the alternative recommendation of the OPAs. Based on the general manager's comments, however, I would be comfortable moving forward provided that we could get a report back that more specifically addresses the items that have been raised that underscore or that have been raised to assert the value of this particular program as it relates to local solar. So I'm curious as to where these projects are, and I am very curious as to how these projects relate to generating local jobs and in what communities. And then I will trust that there will be continued efforts to, notwithstanding the approval today, if that's what occurs, continual efforts to improve the way in which the program operates, the costs associated with the program, et cetera. I do understand that doing something new does result in lessons learned and inefficiencies, and it's complicated and complex. But, if in fact it delivers, and we believe it will deliver in a more robust way moving forward on the priorities that have been advanced today, then I'm certainly willing to support that. I think with that, somebody will make a motion.
I move approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
You guys have your homework assignments before.
Item 24, Commissioner Barad, project labor agreement for the San Fernando Basin remediation project. Commissioner Barad, do you want to hear a presentation or do you have questions?
I think I have a question here. It's regarding the project labor agreement with the building trades. And this amount is not to exceed, and it's $6 million. Well, it's $6.5 million. So could someone just go over the labor contract and what that means? And
So, without the slides, why don't you guys explain how this fits into the whole piece of North Hollywood and how this works? Briefly.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Dave Christensen. I work in
what's your name?
Dave Christensen.
Oh.
I work in the Water Engineering and Technical Services Division. This project labor agreement is part of the groundwater remediation project that we're doing out at North Hollywood. This was approved by the board on August 27th, and you approved it to build 2 remediation facilities, one at the North Hollywood Pump Station, the other one at the Tahunga Spreading Grounds. The project labor agreement was something that was requested and has been used by the city and other proprietary departments and has been put together. Can you go back a couple of slides? It governs the construction portion of the remediation agreement, and it was, as I said, adopted on the 27th, and the PLA is an agreement between the department, the building trades, and the contractor. And it has a couple of provisions. It prohibits a labor stoppage or a labor slowdown of any kind. It also promotes the hiring of local people, veterans, homeless. It also has encourages use of an apprenticeship program for those people who may not have the skills necessary to do this. So it increases their skill level, provides hiring in the local communities. And as I said earlier, this has been done by the city for many, many years. Airports uses it, Port of LA uses it as well. And this is, we've got one in effect right now with the, what we call LARUV, which is the Los Angeles Reservoir Ultraviolet Plant. And so we're doing this with the groundwater remediation for those two facilities that we plan on building.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah. That's it for me.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a motion?
I move
Second?
approval.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Also, Commissioner Broad, item 28, amendment number 1 to agreement number 47329, owner's agent for the San Fernando Basin groundwater remediation facilities with Hazen and Sawyer.
Okay.
So, Commissioner, we have Greg Reed, who's Assistant Director of Water Engineering and Technical Services. In the middle is Todd Rother from also WETS. And on the left side, Andy Leonard, who is the Director of Water Engineering and Technical Services.
Aye.
Good afternoon.
I wanted to ask about the amount that is going to increase the contract from 18.5 million to 48.5 million. That's a lot of money.
Actually, it's from 30 million to 40.5. So the increase is of 18.5 million.
Okay, but the increase is the 18.5.
Correct, yes.
Okay. But no extension of time is requested. So I wonder if you could speak to that, about the increase.
Absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity to discuss this recommendation to extend the contract. On our PowerPoint, we had 4 areas of unanticipated work that occurred so far on the project. The first area involves our cost recovery efforts and having additional support from the Hazen Sawyer team to help us comply with National Contingency Plan processes, which would ensure that our eligibility to recover costs through litigation. The second area of support...
Can you put that in English, please?
We want to be able to recover our costs for these efforts from the parties who are responsible for polluting the basin. And so there are very specific actions that need to be taken by parties who expect to recover costs to be in compliance with the federal government process. And so we didn't have a full expectation of what that process would look like in the front end of a scope of the RFP, but in performing that work, it was a significant task, and so we expended those funds for that purpose. It's in support of our city attorney's process. A lot of the work is related to groundwater modeling. Some of it is related to identifying the various alternatives which ultimately were presented to the board for selection going forward. Some of it was also dealing with public outreach, and so there's various components that need to be done to ensure that we comply with the federal program to recover our costs. This is also a requirement of the Prop 1 funding that we are eligible for, to make sure that if we do recover costs, we'll be able to provide some reimbursement to the state for the grant funds that are allocated to this project. So it was a significant effort, and I think it's a worthwhile effort.
Thank you.
So the second component involved, and this is a really great story, having support for our efforts to build the North Hollywood West remediation facility. On the outset of the program, we envisioned having 4 remediation facilities constructed using progressive design build contractors. But in the case of the North Hollywood West, we were able to partner up with our internal forces to actually build that in-house. The change to the Hayes and Sawyer contract to enable that was to take our design documents much further through completion rather than stopping at the 30% level that would then be handed off to the design build team. So it's a great story. Our in-house forces are currently at the 50%, 60% completion on that North Hollywood West facility. We'll be able to bring that one online much sooner than what the other projects that our colleague Dave Christensen just talked about as far as the North Hollywood facility and the Tahunga facility. So it's a good story. It took us additional resources from this contract in order to support it, but it's a good news story.
So when do you expect completion?
On that particular facility?
On that particular one.
So I believe the North Hollywood West facility should be online probably around May of next year. Then there will be a commissioning, and we'll be working with our Department of Drinking Water for our drinking water permit. And once we receive that permit from them, the facility will be operational.
And how many wells will that restore?
There is 3 initial wells, and then as the modeling showed, 2 additional wells will be included. But the treatment is designed for those wells at the time.
And one of the important things for that is that there's a plume that could impact other wells of some pretty bad stuff. And so this particular facility is catching that plume, and we need to get on it right away. So basically, as Greg said, they took the people who were actually working as the owner's agent and had them finish the design of that so we could build it with our own in-house forces and get it up and running quickly.
So the other 2 items that led to the increase in spending here are to a lesser degree compared to the first 2 that I just mentioned, but they are in support of our Prop 1 grant application process and also supporting our engagement with the Technical Advisory Committee that's a part of the Prop 1. So that's a collaboration with our regulators, so the Department of Financial Assistance, the State Regional Water Quality Control Board, the Division of Drinking Water, and the EPA as an observer to the process. So there's been quite a bit of technical work in terms of identifying how the remediation systems would work, the sizing, the technology to be used, and other aspects of basin operations. The 4th item, let's see, is continuing to work towards getting our DDW permitting for the overall program. So it's complying with our drinking water permit, completing certain studies to essentially get the remediation program permitted going forward.
So one thing to add, just to let you know, Commissioners, next week, the State Water Resources Control Board is going to be considering our application to grant the request for the $250 million.
Yes, I actually, so to date, we've received $50.5 million in grant, up to $50.5 million. 45 of that was awarded to the North Hollywood West. And those are what they call implementation grants. Those are for the construction of the facilities. The other $6 million was assigned to our North Hollywood Tahunga Central projects, as well as to Pollock, and those are planning level grants. Those are each for $2 million. And as Ensemble mentioned, on October 3rd, we have implementation grants that are pending for the State Water Board to approve. North Hollywood Central will be $122.5 million, and the Tahunga will be $137.8 million. And that's up to.
We're pretty confident and hopeful that we will be receiving that money. I think staff is working really hard along with State Board and also with our consultants in ensuring they provide all the information that was being requested to demonstrate that we had a successful project here that meets the goals the state board has, as well as obviously DWP.
Right.
So hopefully soon we'll be coming and showing you that big $250 million check.
So, and
Never
and I-
seen one that big, but.
Yeah, and just so, and to clarify, so all this extra work, and this is not cost overruns, this is additional work, real work that we're having these folks do to support us, which ultimately will support our ratepayers saving a lot of money.
And it's important to have groundwater to bring it in.
Well, if we're gonna meet our local water resources goals, you know, we can catch every drop of rain, but if we can't get it out of the ground and serve it, then we're out of luck. So this is the
Yeah.
key to the future, and this is the world's largest installation
Yeah.
for groundwater cleanup, and it's a big project, and we have to make sure we do everything correctly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I so move.
Those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our last item on the open agenda is item number 30, agreement number 47560 for distribution automation communication network solution and services, ITRON, $62,800,000 and some thousand dollars. Both Commissioner McLean Hill and I pulled this one. I don't, for my purposes, need a full report. I do have one question, but do you want to report or do you have questions?
We can just go to questions.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jeff Carvey, Director of Power New Business Development and Technology Applications.
I read the protest letter that's in our package from Manette Felson Phillips, and I gather they're not going to pursue the protest. But there was one argument they made that concerned me, and I just wanted to raise it with you to hear your thoughts on it. The gist of their argument was, at least the gist of the part of their argument that concerned me, was that this bid, despite its being very large, I guess in separate from the contingent dollars that we added to it, was $54 million. And I gathered, I don't have the exact numbers, but I gathered that the bid for the competitors was some $20 million higher. And the question that was raised in the protest before they decided not to file the protest was, how realistic is it that a bid that was some $20 million lower than what appeared to be a competitive, well-thought-out bid, how realistic is it that they can do the project fully for so much less of a cost?
Sure, that's a great question. And when we looked at the proposals of the company that protested, they provided us a very good proposal, and it wasn't very different from what we received from the proposal that won the award.
Except for the cost.
Except for the cost, which was an element of the evaluation. We did have a diverse evaluation team that evaluated the merits of the technical and the management portions of the proposal. Our supply chain folks did the evaluation of the cost, and everybody was on the same page in terms of the recommended vendor's ability to perform what was required in the RFP.
So I guess this is my operative question. What can we do to ensure that they don't come back with cost overruns when they've got, apparently the disparity in cost was a significant factor in choosing them, understandably, but having voted on hundreds of cost overruns over the course of the past 6 years, I'd like to be confident that we aren't being played here and that we're not going to see requests for $10 million more or something like that. What do we do to protect ourselves given that disparity in the bidding?
Go ahead. So we have a couple of mechanisms that are currently in place to make sure that doesn't happen. Obviously, following a universally accepted project management protocol and approach where we define the scope clearly, and the vendor's going to adhere to that. In that also, we've developed that contingency fund. We do expect to complete the project within the 3-year term, and we have the renewable options to support the risk of the transition of the project from the vendor over to DWP staff. And we're in the contract, it's a task order based contract. So as we have the scope, and we're going to develop all the task orders within the first few months of the program, and the vendor is on the hook for delivering at the costs that they've put on those task orders. So there won't be an ability to go back and say, well, we didn't think about this.
How are they on the hook? What's the hook? What happens if they charge more? Say they can't do it?
Well, once we define the scope, we agree on the cost of that scope. The vendor, in the agreement to the task order process, the vendor won't have an opportunity to come and say, well, now we need to change the cost. They have to deliver what was promised in the scope for that cost. There's terms and conditions in there to secure that.
And I assume there are...
Is this standard operating procedure for us? Do we do this generally? Or
in terms of the task orders?
Yeah.
Yeah, the task orders are pretty common.
I guess the last item is not a good example because it was a lot more work than had been contemplated that led to the $18 million increase. But reverberating to me is we almost routinely get cost overruns and come back and approve them because we don't really have that much choice. We're halfway through a project and we end up doing it. When we're starting something with such a disparity in cost, it seems to me that it's incumbent on us to do something to ensure that won't be violated. I'm not sure what that should be, but I'm not sure what you're suggesting is enough.
And there's some additional...
No, go ahead.
There's some additional oversight that we already have in place. In addition to the DWP staff that's going to be working on the project, we have an independent third-party team, owner's representative team that's working with us to ensure the project is monitored and controlled appropriately. So we don't find out about an issue too late where we can't mitigate it. We're going to be monitoring the project very diligently and very granularly. So that's already in place to not only support the DWP project management team, but to ensure that if there's an issue, we know about it early enough where we can fix it.
And how are the performance metrics? Do you have that embedded, and there's going to be like penalties or fines or...
Yes, there's some
delays.
Yeah, there's some language in the agreement for liquidated damages when things are not delivered on time, and so we've built that into the agreement so that the vendor knows that there'll be some repercussions for their inability to perform.
Yeah, I have a different line of questioning, and the NAT letter was withdrawn, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no longer a protest? Okay, perfect. So my question actually goes to the intersection of this contract with our own IT personnel and our own ability to bring this distribution automation online in a way that's going to be effective. And so I'm curious, I saw that the review team included IT. This is one of those items, though, that is being budgeted through power. And so, we've discussed this before regarding making sure that we have all of the internal resources available and locked down in order to support our otherwise global objectives. So I'm curious about what the plan is as it relates to making sure that IT, our internal IT, is appropriately integrated into this process and how that's going to be implemented both through the pendency of the contract and then beyond that. And where the budget for that sits, because it can't sit in power.
So ultimately, a very detailed staffing plan to address and support distribution automation in this program. There was a presentation with Power, working with IT and Power on how to resource these positions, identifying key roles and responsibility, who's going to do what, and who's going to fund positions. Currently, we've already have 2 positions that are allocated that are actually onboarded for this project, as others will be coming on into the next budget year.
Are they power or are they IT?
Those ones were budgeted under Power.
And is there also funds in the joint system that support this program?
I think right now the project is budgeted under Power, but IT and others are probably contributing to that budget. I could double check that.
Yeah, so a project like this would be, it would reside in one spot in the budget, but then organizations, I mean, even if it was, it could be just
Well,
IT,
and
it
because,
could be anybody
again, because
would budget people
the
into
reason
that.
that I'm asking about this is because, again, as we discussed some time ago, there just our sort of budgeting process and where things sit, where people sit, where resources sit, have implications for, you know, who's accountable, you know, who owns actual, this, you know, who's accountable for the successful delivery of a project. This is clearly the kind of item that transcends power. And IT is going to have significant responsibility, particularly as this project is delivered. So I would very much like to see what that staffing plan looks like, and also what and how this is budgeted, and to ensure that as it moves forward, it's done in a way that puts authority and responsibility in the right columns, as opposed to having control reside, for instance, in power solely for responsibilities and authorities that ought to be in IT and in joint. So if we could get something back, when would your staffing, when, for instance, would you expect the staffing plan to be worked out?
The staffing plan, once we have board approval, we'll be moving forward on that immediately.
So coming back in 30 days, is that something that would make sense?
I believe that's reasonable, yes.
And, okay, that would be terrific. And I would expect that that report would include both IT and also budget.
Yes, with budget and ultimately through our steering committee, because all stakeholders are represented on this steering committee on this. And these are all things that have been well thought out. So absolutely, with 30 days, we should be able to bring you back what you're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I move.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All approved. All it's approved. Thank you. Counselor?
Yeah, at this point, we will recess into closed session to deal with the items on the closed session agenda, and in accordance with California Government Code Section 54957.1, we'll report any final actions taken therein.